Welcome to the Just Weebs podcast. I'm your host, Onimaru, and you're watching us not live. This is actually a pre-recorded show because we can't do a live one this weekend. And joining me to pre-record this is my usual co-host, Shocking.
Hi.
And so today we're going to talk about, or you're going to hear about eventually, the new gen. Well, we're talking about Shonen. And I think specifically the new Gen Shounen, whatever that means.
Yeah, so it's like, you walk into a bar, aka you log online, and you see the question, what's your favorite new Gen Shonen? And then you see 4 pictures that do not seem remotely related at all, and they probably include Vinland Saga at some point, even though it's not a shonen. And it started publishing back in like 2005. So you got that, you get just a random assortment of pictures, and none of them really seem accurate, but then you're still left wondering, like, what is new gen shonen? Like, when does it start? What's the cutoff? What are the qualifiers? And since we couldn't be here this weekend, and we were trying to think of a topic, and I was like, let's ask Onimaru what his favorite new gen shonen are and see what he comes up with. And now we wanted to have a whole discussion about like the new gen shonen series that we just see popping up all the time that are, the new hot things to discuss, even though some of them have been around for like 6 years. So, I'm pretty excited because we get to maybe decide what new gen means, what qualifies for it, and then we're going to talk about like the actual shows that we think are like count as new gen shonen. So I don't know actually the backstory lore on your opinions on shonen, Onimaru. So I'm excited to hear, because I'm not sure if like you're like a shonen person, if you're like occasionally dab in shonen, or like sometimes only when it's like, publishing or airing. So like, how would you describe how you feel about battle shonen? Generally battle shonen, because there's other shonen, but we generally mean battle shonen.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a lot. It's really just going to be about
this
battle.
is just going to be a lot.
It's going to be battle. It's going to be a lot, but it's definitely going to be revolved around battle shonen. I feel like, as the regular viewers know, we're going to age ourselves here. This is the We a Boomer podcast. That's what we really should have started off with here. This is welcome to the We a Boomer podcast. I'm your aged host, but pretty much I've been into battle shonen like even before I knew it was battle shonen. So for a long, long time, because I started off with Dragon Ball Z. So that was like my technically my first anime. But that's like, I still don't want to, I don't want to count that. It is shonen, but again, it was at a time where I didn't really, kind of consider it part of that formula. I just kind of enjoyed it for what it was. So when I actually entered like the battle shonen, now is that an ice cream truck? Is that my end?
Going way back to your childhood.
Yeah. I could have just kept going.
No, that was necessary. We needed to like bring it back to DBZ times.
Yeah, so when I actually like consider battle shonen, when I started getting into it, I think I would say is Bleach was my first like battle shonen of that era of Big Three, because like Bleach was like the first. I think it was the first anime I watched with subtitles, with Japanese and in subtitles. The first one that once I started watching anime online.
Oh, okay.
And I made
it wasn't
that switch.
On Toonami.
No. So when I made that switch, Bleach was airing weekly in Japan at the time, and it was only up to episode 27.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I kind of jumped in like right at around towards the end of its first or second arc. I think it was its first arc, like before the whole Soul Society thing.
Gotcha.
And and then that eventually led to me binging like Naruto later. Got into Naruto, and then I didn't get into One Piece till years later. But then eventually it got to a point, I think, in college where I was like reading weekly like One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. And like I think I was really entrenched in it because like those were the anime that I bonded with my friends over. Like those were the ones that we had the big like argumentative, like fun, like group chats, like that we got really passionate over, like either weekly or whenever we saw each other. It always came back to shonen.
Okay, yeah, I feel like that's generally what it comes down to. I think I'm the worst at actually introducing this topic because I feel like I should also specify like what shonen is because it's one of those terms that's like very often used but often misunderstood. So like we mentioned before, like there's shonen and like battle shonen. So shonen is actually like the demographic of like it means young boy. So it's I believe it's like 6 to 12, might be 5 to 12. Either way, that's like generally considered the demographic. And then battle shonen is a subgenre that means like action battle series that are catered towards that demographic. So there are like shonen series that are not battle shonen, but they're still in that demographic. But you generally see it shorthanded as just shonen referring to battle shonen, even though there are like slice of life, sci-fi, drama, rom-com series that are all still considered in the shonen demographic, but are not considered battle shonen. So, you know, unnecessary aside, I know Onimaru knew that, but in case we had someone listening who did not,
actually, like, for a long time, I think I also just made the association shonen was like I equated battle shonen and shonen together. And then it wasn't until later that I was like, oh, wait, there's like a difference.
And that makes sense because I think there's sometimes like a complex around this, but like battle shonen is kind of the face of anime and manga, at least in the West. And it's, you know, for better or worse, that's just kind of how it is. It's kind of like the blockbuster, the Hollywood blockbuster of the medium. And that's generally what's going to get people into the medium, whether other people like it or not. You know, that just kind of is how it is. Because I've seen a lot of people who complain about that in terms of like, well, why don't people watch these types of series, like these dramas, or why don't they watch rom-coms? You know, there's so much else out there. But realistically speaking, you know, action series are going to get people's attentions, especially when it's, you know, something that's in another language. And I think what drives a lot of it is that people can watch it with English dubs, and sometimes the English dubs might not be up to snuff, but you're not going to notice as much because there's less talking, because there's more action. So I think that generally translates to why it's more attention grabbing, as well as the actual visuals tend to be, you know, a bit more dynamic in presentation, because that is kind of like part of the fundamental appeal is the action part. So for better or worse, I think that's why it is kind of like the staple of the medium. And I'm not saying it's like the best the medium has to offer, but it is kind of a common gateway point for people, you know, either growing up or getting into the medium. That's just my take on it. You know, other people might have interesting gateways into the medium, but I think that's the most common one.
Yeah, it's common because it's easy, it's popular. Like you said, it grabs, you know, it's like the equivalent to the, you know, Hollywood blockbuster. It's more in the mainstream, you know. People will know anime probably more easily first by shonen than they would like shoujo, for example. Yeah. They equate more of that. That's more in the mainstream. And then, but I actually, so that's kind of like how, you know, my history with battle shonen, I guess, like reading it weekly and stuff like that. But I don't know what's your kind of like, we got to know about you. I'm interested in knowing like what's been your kind of, you know, take on battle shonen and your experience with it and all of that.
So I think I did it kind of backwards. When I was a kid, I was watching generally around the same time you did, but I didn't watch DBZ or Naruto because I remember specifically seeing Naruto on Toonami, and I was like, he looks gross, I'm not watching this. It's like 6-year-old me is like, ew, bye. So I was watching like Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura at the time, and somehow Tenchi Muro, I say his last name.
Yeah, Muyo.
Tenchi Muyo, like, what's I doing? So I was watching all those things on Toonami. You know, I guess because they had like badass girls who wore, you know, really pretty outfits. They were fun. So I didn't really get into battle shonen until much later, despite watching something like Naruto become a, you know, worldwide phenomena, like outside of the medium. You know, like it just became a huge thing since we were kids. But I wasn't really interested in it. And I still have yet to see the big three, see or read the big three. I promise I will do it. I'm like always this close. I've seen like a few episodes here and there of like One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, and like I'm always torn between reading or watching it, but somehow like I haven't gotten around to them yet. So
Wait a second. You have not read a single one, not
No.
any of the three. You don't know anything about.
I know. Well, I know a lot of things, but not from firsthand experience. Because you see everything online, and like it's a lot of it's so common knowledge. I mean, I've seen probably every Naruto opening. I've seen like most of the endings. I've seen so much of it. I know a lot of the soundtracks. I know some plot twists. Because you see stuff online. I'm not. I don't expect the world to hold back on Naruto spoilers for me, who hasn't seen it in like 20 years. So, I mean, I think it's just become such a part of pop culture and like anime culture that like you just know about it even if you haven't seen it. And I think that's applicable to a lot of like films, books, whatever. It's just a staple. So.
Yeah, but sometimes like knowing like the spoiler of something or the plot twist or something is like. It sometimes doesn't mean much to you without having read it, like out of
definitely
context. Like, oh yeah, because then it's a joke, it's a cultural thing, but like because you haven't read it, it doesn't really mean anything to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I do. It is really funny without kind of knowing the very basic Naruto knowledge I know and seeing the openings. It does look like just like him progressively becoming a furry. Like he's just progressively becoming this. What is it? The nine-tailed fox.
Can confirm that is the story. That's what happens.
Someone said like, no, that's it. I was like, okay, cool. So I got it from the opening. But yeah, no, I mean, I know some specific Naruto spoilers and One Piece spoilers, not many Bleach spoilers. But yeah, so I mean, I just know about them and I'm sure they would be impactful in context. And I think they will whenever I get there. I just have yet to do that. But
you literally reduced the plot of all of Naruto to just like Teen Wolf. Like
it's Teen Wolf, but like Teen Fox, because I think it's a fox in him.
There's a lot more nuance, Shaw.
Yeah, it's not just Beastars OG edition.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, so it's embarrassing, but my 12-year-old sister has now seen more of Naruto and One Piece than I have, so I have to get good. It's embarrassing, but I'm gonna do it. It's just it's tough to get into them when it's been so many years out of it. And just, it's tough to, take that first step. But I promise I will do it. People are always like, when are you going to? I'm like, I'm going to do it. It's just when. It's just a matter of when.
Like, it's just like for a long time, I considered like these big, like the big three, the original big three or the old guard or whatever you want to call it as sort of like an initiation or rite of passage, at least with like friends, like, to find out one of our friends would just be sitting there like we couldn't even talk about something because he wouldn't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Or he hasn't watched it yet. It would be like, dude, like catch up. Like you need to catch up.
Get good. Yeah. But so I kind of did it backwards, and I think I've seen at least some part of most of the other popular shonen series besides the big three. Like I've seen, I think in order, just naming them off the top of my head, like Full Metal Alchemist, both of them, Hunter x Hunter, Gintama, Yu Yu Hakusho, JoJo, what am I thinking? Like Maji, Soul Eater. I have to look at my list because I've seen a lot of the recent stuff. Then like the My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, Promise Neverland, Death Note, like so other stuff that in that group. So I've seen like some long running series, some smaller series, a lot more recent series, but even like Yu Yu Hakusho, which is a bit older. But I've not seen the big three yet, so it is. Sometimes ignorance is kind of bliss because I see some of the conversations going on and I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have an opinion on this. But I am like really curious to see how I will feel about them because I do think I respect the genre and what they do for the subgenre, the demographic, whatever. I respect what they do for the medium a lot more now than I definitely would have as a kid. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah, it makes sense because like, I'm kind of hesitant to engage any of the conversation like now that goes on about those because one, it's not fresh in my head, and two, like, of those big three, two ended. So like once they ended, I have no inclination to kind of revisit. It's sort of like, I just kind of keep moving towards the next thing.
Yeah.
But like to specify though, the what made the big three to my understanding is that it's a Western thing. That we kind of nicknamed it the big three because of I think they were all three really popular battle shonen that were kind of in the same, Jump magazine weekly at the time. And
they were licensed in the US around the same time too.
Yeah. So because of that and like it was really the fan bases. It was kind of like the Xbox versus PlayStation war, but just for for these three, and that's what I understood it. It was always
Yeah.
like Naruto versus One Piece versus Bleach.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because they all have very different premises, different styles, different aesthetics. So it's, they do feel like three very different properties, even though they probably have similarities, but it's kind of cool to see that they're just like very different, doing their own things. You could tell that it would like get like some people would be drawn to them for different reasons.
Yeah. And because of that, like, I think unique scenario, I don't think there can be a new big three.
Yeah, that's a question that comes up all the time. Like, what's the new big three? And I always kind of cringe at that, despite not really having that much investment in the original big three. I don't know what's my problem, but like, I'm just like, no, like, it's not saying that these three are like the biggest shows of all time or the best shows of all time. It just is referring to a very specific era when we were kids in which like these three series were the biggest series in the West and were all licensed and publishing at the same time. It's like referring to an era with these series, not necessarily a title per se, it's not like saying like I dubbed the big three. It's like this is the era in which they existed and they happen to be those shows.
I mean, I remember a similar like cringy sort of feeling. Like, it wasn't a big deal, but I remember I was reading My Hero Academia, the manga weekly, and it got to the arc where it introduced the upperclassmen
with
Mirio, and
the
they
big
referred to
three.
them as the big three.
Yeah.
And like everyone in the comments was like, oh yeah, the big three, that's what we called the three manga back then. Man, I wonder if they named it after that, or like they were just like saying it was like a reference to that or whatever. And I was like, no, not really, but
kind of like a common thing. Like
like
the Elite Four, which shows up in like Pokemon and Kill la Kill. It's not like a throwback, it's just like the title that's like kind of common.
Yeah, but I appreciated that in Kill la Kill.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, but I enjoyed that. So, yeah, maybe it is a Pokemon throwback, and I'm just being dense. But I mean, yeah, it's like a title. So I mean, I'm with you on that too. I don't think there is a big three. I don't think there can be a new big three. Big correction, because I don't think that we're in a certain time period in which like there's certain big series. It's like you get a new big thing every season, or some things that continue to be big. We had like even back like Attack on Titan has been big for how many years? Sword Art Online was big, and that's not like comparable to Attack on Titan. And then you get like One Piece, which was big. I mean, One Punch Man, which was big. So like, there's so many different levels of bigness that are like existing in different times. Yeah. So
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's interesting how like Hunter x Hunter is like it's like acclaimed in its own right. Like, it's in a way it's above the big three. Like, it's just people
they don't like when you say that. They don't like when you say that.
They don't. But I mean, like, I feel like I'm just basing it on how I've observed how it's treated. Like, it's it is considered a shonen, but it's never really put like in comparison, I guess, to the big three. It's kind of treated as its own thing, or some people will call it like the best shonen ever made.
So, like that, and kind of like Full Metal Alchemist, both
that too.
03 and Brotherhood. They just are like kind of feel like different properties. I think they're they just both exist in very like unique circumstances. Like with FMA 03, like the 2003 adaptation, which was then like the manga finished, and then they made Brotherhood almost immediately because it was such a success. So it's like it's so rare to have that where they do like almost an instant readaptation to keep the success going. And then, with Hunter x Hunter, how you have like the 99, I think it's the 99 Hunter x Hunter, which came out when the manga was publishing more consistently. And then they just did a reboot of it in 2011. So like but Hunter x Hunter has been publishing since the late 90s, around the same time as Naruto. So like, it's not that maybe like the newest anime for it is new gen, but like the original manga is not new gen. It was like, it was been around since we were kids. So there's so many unique circumstances. And then you have Attack on Titan, which some people don't even want to call a shonen because it's too bloody and gory, even though it's literally in a shonen magazine. So it's like, you know, so many different qualifiers.
To correct what I was saying before, I think Hunter x Hunter is a bit more comparable because compared to Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or Full Metal Alchemist in general, Hunter x Hunter is like considered a battle shonen. It's more of a battle shonen.
Full Metal Alchemist still is too, right? Because in my head they are, but I know people are like, I don't know, because I feel like people get kind of like, oh, it's more of like a drama, but like it is still like an action series. Like it's still a battle shonen to me. Same with Attack on Titan. I do think that they exist in the same umbrella, but I think people want to classify them differently.
You know, people can correct me on this afterward, but I think the simplest way to look at it, and this is really probably oversimplified, but if it has a tournament arc, it is a battle shonen. You know, or some form of a tournament arc. Those are more in line with battle shonen.
Well, they do have a tournament arc in Full Metal early on, and then between Ed and Roy to see who will, like, them competing against each other. And I guess you could technically say that the scouts, when they're doing their initial test to see what their rankings are, is kind of a tournament arc. So
okay,
you
so
can
maybe
spin
I got caught up in my own classification there.
Almost, but I agree with you. I'm even more simple, where I'm like, if they fight, it's a battle shonen. If they go pow, it's a battle shonen.
If it follows the formula, essentially, like tournament arc, power scaling, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, because like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
That one's one too. That's just like that's one of the OG things of like that just also kind of exists in such a like unique circumstance. Yeah. JoJo is just like in its own reality. Sometimes literally. So then you get like JoJo, which is just so out there. But I don't feel like, I think we agree. I don't know about anyone else, because people get so like, people have their own like, you know, definitions of things. So, but like, I don't think we would consider any of those like new gen per se.
Yeah.
I think of new gen is like the new publishing manga series that have become new anime.
Well, actually, like, well, let's get more into the new gen, because I think I was still focused on overall, like, you know, kind of the old shonen, like what was considered big three, where did the other ones stand? But in terms of like new gen, I didn't even know that was a term until you brought it up. Like,
I'm sorry for giving you that. I'm sorry. I see it everywhere, and I'm like, now I don't want to know about new gen, and now I'm gonna curse you with the knowledge of new gen.
I like looked up like a Google image, like, you know, new Gen Shounen, and I like the thing, like, are these the new, like the new big three? And it was
you saw it all.
It was like My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, and Black Clover, and I'm like, well, Demon Slayer is done now, so you know, I don't think that counts.
Which is weird. Yeah, it's weird because I mean, you can't deny how big Demon Slayer is, but like, it's also done, so it's another unique scenario.
Yeah, that's why I don't think there can be a big three, because you'd have to have like the three long running enough to a point to create that whole, like, you know, kind of competition between the fan bases for over a long, like 2-3 years, 4 years.
Yeah. And I even heard that Jujutsu Kaisen, I mean, I heard through the grapevine, so to speak, like Jujutsu Kaisen might be ending in like a year or two. Like they might. So I think they do have these like shorter life cycles and plan for a lot of series like Promise Neverland, Demon Slayer, potentially Jujutsu Kaisen. We saw Chainsaw Man ended recently, and it's like, it seems like, if anything, I don't need to stroke the flame of rivalry anymore, but it does feel like the only two big ones that are going on for long periods of time are like My Hero Academia and Black Clover. Those feel like the two that are trying to like perpetuate the long running formula. And I mean, I don't see any other series kind of like that, even though I think like Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen got the biggest boost in manga sales from their anime adaptations.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like just so different. The landscape is just so different. So I don't think I don't think we'll have a new big three.
Especially since like in terms of those that you mentioned, they've reached a much wider audience, mainly because of where anime is right now on the mainstream.
Yeah, like online distribution
sphere.
Yeah.
And you know, and also like if you count Attack on Titan, that's hit a lot of people. You know, reached a lot of people. But in terms of like new gen shonen, you know, that haven't ended, I guess, or you know, maybe if you do want to count Demon Slayer, like you said, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
But so what is are non-battle shonen counted as new gen shonen?
I don't know, because it depends on the shitpost of the day. Because sometimes you see like Haikyuu grouped in with them, and then you're like, Haikyuu started publishing in like 2009. Yeah. Same as I think Attack on Titan, and like we are now currently looking at two things which have semi recently ended. I think Haikyuu ended did Haikyuu end last year or 2 years ago? I can't even remember.
Attack on Titan. It was last year.
Okay, so it ended last year, beginning of last year, and then Attack on Titan just ended this year. So those two series are over. They ran for a long period of time, and then, like, I don't know, is it fair to call something that's 10 years old that's over new gen? That's what I'm wondering. That's like, it's not a new generation, because we're talking like generation. Gen means generation. That's like 10 years, and those are 10 years ago. So,
to be honest, I think this whole new gen thing, and I could be wrong, but I think that it's really an attempt to get back that same feeling of the big three. It's people wanting there to be like, okay, this is the new gen. This is it. This is like what we have to look forward to and all that stuff. They want it there to be that feeling again. Because there was a certain excitement to it. Like, oh, the big three, you know, me and my friends would like joke about every week about like, you know, how one chapter did versus another.
Yeah.
And like,
people love doing that. Like the head to head, like which is the best one, rank these ones, you know, and it's fun. It's fun to be like, you know, who had the strongest chapter or which arc is the strongest, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like we were just like, oh, this was a really good chapter this week. The other two were like, you know, we would imagine like the author like rolling back in his chair, smoking a Cuban, just enjoying, you know, how good he is that week, reigning supreme to the other ones. But I don't know. But it was just that being on that hype train, I guess. That
like the fun competitiveness that comes from like watching something be really hype in real time.
Yeah. So like again, you know, I don't know, new gen shonen. I think that would have to just refer to battle shonen. If not, then, you know, the ones that were like Dr. Stone's still going. Like you said, Promised Neverland ended. Jujutsu Kaisen might end soon. Demon Slayer's done. Are there any other shonen? Chainsaw Man is getting a part 2 eventually.
Yeah. So that's like, it's like first part is done. So that's going to be interesting I'm not even sure what to expect with part 2. So that's kind of cool. But
I think he's going to school.
Oh, excited for him. Good. Now we get the slice of life school spinoff.
But did we need it? We'll find out.
We'll find out. And I was thinking of Shokugeki that came out, but I don't like thinking about Shokugeki because of how much of a betrayal it was. But that was like another like non-battle series.
That was like a battle shonen, but with food, I guess.
It was great. It was good. It was good times. And then it was a betrayal. So I feel sad about it. It hurts to think about.
I mean, I was reading the manga consistently weekly, and I dropped it. So that should tell you how I feel about it.
Did you stop around the same time too as like the reveal? Like, I think it's chapter. I don't know if it's chapter. I feel like it was 20 something, like either 220 or like 320 or something. It was like I almost remember the number, and it was like the collective drop from everyone in the fandom.
I think I dropped it around 230 or 2.
That might have been it.
Well, it wasn't even like there was no big reveal. It was sort of like there was one of the without spoiling too much, one of the good guys that was like one of the chefs on their side kind of they turned him evil, so now he was like being bad and now like
I remember that.
Against them. And he's the one that like has the fragrances or whatever.
The spices. Yeah. So that was your turning point.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? I'm not buying this. This is just whatever. And then I just like fell off. And then I heard everything I heard after that was just disappointing. Like, it doesn't get better. So I'm like, okay, I was right.
Yeah. That wasn't even the worst betrayal. There was more yet to come. So
yeah,
glad you were saved from that.
Yeah. Like I felt like maybe I had dropped it prematurely, but just that whole kind of like arc, once it started going in that direction, it just became less and less interesting. And then when I heard it ended, I skipped and like read the last chapter, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is not what I thought it would be.
Before we go on to another series, who was your best girl? That's like the most important question.
Oh, that's tough. I think that one's tough, actually.
It is tough.
I think at the time I was between Megumi and Erina, I think. No. Or was it? No. Was it? I think it was Megumi.
No. Ready to fight.
You know who I really loved actually? Because I don't know if we're like talking about like who we wanted to end up with Soma, or we're just saying like
No,
who's
best in gen. No, just like
like
your favorite of the girl, not who you wanted to end up with him. Because I would probably have a different answer.
okay. So I love Alice.
Yes, Alice.
She's
Alice is my
awesome.
favorite. Alice
Yeah.
is my favorite by so much. She was so funny and like she's such a brat, but it was like funny and cute. I was like, oh my god, I love you. You're so perfect. But
Oh,
I
she was
wouldn't want her
great.
to. She didn't even end up with her dude. Sorry for spoiling Shokugeki. I don't think anyone cares. But it's like at that point, like you have nothing going for you. Like they were the clear, like you have so many clear pairings. Just like set them up. Why not just do it? Give us some happiness.
That show had everything. That series had everything going for it. It had great art, great characters, but hey, you know, sometimes serialization just does that to you. I think artists being on that weekly grind and having to come up with stuff.
And then get a new editor. Apparently, that was it.
Is that what it is?
That might have. I think that was the scuttlebutt of like new editor kind of mess things up. But
I do hear stuff like that. Like I was reading a long time ago, really long interview with the editor, Toriyama from Dragon Ball's like first editor, like kind of like got him pretty much his start. I think he was with him till a good portion of Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. And it sounded like if it wasn't for his editor, like he wouldn't have probably been as successful. Not that he didn't have like the talent, but I think he wanted to do like a lot of ideas and his editor just pushed back on him a lot. And to the point that he wrote like villains that were based on his editor, I heard.
That's really funny.
If someone can confirm, but I heard like, I think like Frieza was supposed to be based on him, but he didn't confirm or something like that.
It's so funny. Oh my God. I would love that. That's so funny. Like take some real life inspiration. Oh my God. Yeah. That's amazing.
And I don't know if the rest of the villains were based on like the next editors, but something like that. But
so funny. Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. That's really funny.
Editors play a big part, but
yeah.
So yeah, in terms of new gen shonen, you know, I don't know. You know what I actually think, and this is I shouldn't even be the one to like, you know, I don't have any right to say it because I haven't read it at all. I haven't experienced it at all. But I think Black Clover is the new gen is probably the most like thing that's close to being a new gen shonen. Like it fits the description in my mind from what I've heard about it. Like its reception, people loving it, kind of like saying like the action's like really good and all that stuff. Like that sounds like, okay, this is, and it's still going, it's still long running. You know, that sounds like, okay, that's more of like a new gen shonen. But unfortunately, I never got into it. I know very little. Most of the things that I know are probably the negative stuff that, you know, it shouldn't hold as much weight as it has with some people. But yeah.
So, but do you think that means like My Hero Academia is too old to be new gen? Because in my head, My Hero Academia is like the beginning of new gen.
Yeah, no, but didn't My Hero Academia come out like while Naruto was still going on, or am I wrong about that?
I think it came out like
no, Naruto had ended.
Yeah, but I don't think like I'm looking it up again because I get the dates mixed up. So the manga started in 2014, and then the anime came out in 2016.
Okay, so Naruto ended that year at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So around the same time. Okay, yeah, no, I could see, and I think Bleach was already Bleach.
Yeah, Bleach was over. I think.
Was it?
Yeah, no. I think Bleach had ended by then.
Because I feel like Naruto ended first, then Bleach. I don't know, but something like that. But you know what? I would agree. I think My Hero Academia is, I would count that probably as a new gen shonen. My Hero Academia, Black Clover, and I just think like the third spot has been missing, you know, to form the big three, and that's why people have been tossing it up as like, you know, will it be Demon Slayer? No, that finished. Is it Jujutsu Kaisen? Maybe.
We have to see, and it's like, yeah, and I mean that's why I think I think it's just those two. That's why those two are just like carrying on the legacy of older, longer running series, which isn't to say that you can't see traces of influence in Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen, because I see a lot of influence in them as well. But I don't think they, you know, if they're not going to be as long running, you know, they just have different elements, then I guess maybe they need a new title. That's what I think. They need a new title for this new gen. They need their own thing. Maybe the big four or elite four. I don't know. I just think it's just so diversified, and you're going to find more popular things outside the magazine too. So it's a tough call, but either way, these are like the new series that people get into anime with. I think that's something we can agree on. People watch these and they get into anime.
Yeah, I wonder if there will ever be a big 3 shoujo, like a big 3
shoujo.
Like...
Shoujo would be interesting because they have to. I don't know how many people get in with shoujo because I feel like they just don't have you don't have like entry level magical girl shows anymore, which is sad. Those were so fun.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like shoujo, the subject matter of the stories doesn't lend itself to kind of the actiony kind of
well, it did when we were younger. It's just now it's all about like the dark magical girl shows. Like they have to be about suffering. Yeah.
And then at that point I think they aren't shoujo.
I don't know. There's some dark shoujo stuff. You'd be surprised. You see some stuff and you're like, but
I guess would it fall into the shoujo demographic though?
Yeah, I mean, we have dark stuff in shonen. I mean, you'd be surprised, like, Nana is a shoujo, and they have, like, sex and drugs and stuff in that.
That still surprises me, and I still keep getting recommended that I need to watch that.
They came out with, the HD episodes came out on High Dive.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, I guess it's about time.
It's almost time. But yeah, no.
But bringing it back to
bringing it back to the one demographic we have to talk about.
Hey, only if you want to keep talking about it. So true. How do you feel about, and you know what, we could either tie this directly into a series, but how do you feel about shonen overall, like the demographic and everything?
I think it depends on the circle, you know, like I think it both gets too much flack and then sometimes can be overhyped because, you know, you get some circle where like battle shonen is all there is, like that's all there is in the medium, that's all that counts. And that's all they're going to watch. And they're not going to watch anything unless there's that like hype go like raw action aspect to it. So they're not going to watch like, you know, a slice of life series or a comedy or a rom-com or something. And you're like, hey, like this stuff is cool, but like there's other cool things out here which can be comparable. Like you don't have to rate everything based on how badass someone is. You don't have to determine how good of a character someone is by who they can be, you know, so you get that one aspect. But then you go to the extreme opposite end and you have a lot of people underplaying things just because it has a shonen tag next to it on Mal or AniList. And you're like, okay, like understandable why you would be apprehensive given a lot of the common tropes and, you know, other shows you've seen that might have been a letdown. But I don't think it's fair to just kind of, you know, write them all off or write off their maturity or sense of themes or the like, you know, subject matter that can be covered or their execution or creativity in general, just because it might be similar to other series you've seen. So I think it just like, it gets a lot of flack, but it also is kind of like, can be blinders for some people. And I think both kind of cast it into an unfair light when realistically speaking, I think they generally tend to be like the most popular series, the entry-level series that people will watch. And yeah, there's more good things beyond them, but I don't think we should overlook just how much they do for the industry, what they can bring to the table, and then, you know, what they, you know, what type of good experiences they've been and how, like, sometimes they are really good and worth praising as much as other series. You know, we don't, like, maybe they're not your number one of all time for you, and maybe you'll find more complicated things out there, but I don't think it's fair to completely diminish their accomplishments just because they're popular or just because they're the most talked about series in the community.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I meant for you personally.
Oh,
how do you feel about shonen?
Oh, well, I think I think when I think about it, that's where I'm like, okay, I'll enjoy an average shonen more than I'll enjoy an average series of other genres, like an average slice of life, an average drama, an average rom-com, an average comedy. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I am kind of shonen trash in that way, but I think for me, it's like, I get like, when I end up watching something, it's either like peak, one of my favorites, really good, or it's kind of whatever. Like, I do have a range of them, but I either like really, really love them, or I'm kind of like, yeah, these were pretty good. But yeah, I think that's just kind of the range of them in general. But, you know, some of the best experiences I've had with the medium have been from shonen, anime, and manga. I think that, yeah, they make up some of the best stuff out there. So generally very positive on them.
Yeah, I definitely like Shonen a lot. It makes up for, again, a lot of the fun experiences that I have with anime. But there's one specific shonen that gets a lot of flack, a lot of hate. And we spoke earlier about overhype. And I think overhype, at least at some point early on in its when it started airing, I think overhype is a factor to why it gets a lot of hate. And that show, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, is My Hero Academia. I think we need to talk about My Hero Academia because I think, that's not one that Shaw is particularly too fond of, at least, right? Shaw?
It's so funny. I was playing devil's advocate for it the other day, and it turned out to be a copy pasta. So even my attempts at defending the series have been fruitless and pointless. So it's just oil and water, no matter what happens.
Well, now you have your chance. Now you either can defend it, trash it, just speak candidly. Feel free. I will balance you out. No worries.
Okay, well, I'm glad we have you to balance me out no matter what. So, I mean, full transparency, I'm not up to date. I think so. I was watching it. I was watching season 4 when I was going to the gym, and it was kind of the perfect show to watch while at the gym because I could focus on it, but still watch a show at the gym that's probably the most weeb acceptable. So I was watching season 4 and then COVID hit. So the gym got shut down and I stopped watching it. And I was waiting for the chance to go back to the gym and watch it. So I'm around the Gentle arc, that guy?
Yeah.
Second half of season 4.
The Gentle Criminal arc, episode 80 to 84.
Yeah, so I'm stuck there. And I've heard a lot of things that have happened afterwards that I think are really interesting and exciting and are kind of what I always wanted for the series. But I'm not caught up. So that's my disclaimers. I'm not caught up. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm speaking about the series as a whole. Because I hate when people talk about a series as if they've seen all of it, but they haven't. Big pet peeve. Don't do that. It's I don't like it. It's disingenuous. So I'm at that point. But I think I faced... I think I have had opinions that a lot of people share now at the wrong time. Because I watched season 1, I thought it was okay, had potential, but it didn't really click with me. Then I watched season 2, and I was getting really invested in the early tournament arc. So then I binged the manga. So I read up into, I believe it was the overhaul arc was airing at that point. So that's 2017. And I found it kind of. It would follow this pattern of it would get my hopes up because it seemed really interesting. I'd get really hyped. And then whatever resolution happened was really disappointing for me. So that would happen for 3 arcs. And then I was okay, I'm done. This series is not it. And this was at the time when My Hero Academia praise was at its peak. 10 out of 10, best series of all time. This is the new biggest thing. This was the hot shit. It was at the, I had the opinion that it was average to above average when everyone was saying it was 10 out of 10, which definitely got me to be a bit more jaded towards the series because I felt it was tough. It's FOMO. You feel fear of missing out because I'm everyone loves this. I generally love Shonen. Everyone else loves it. What am I missing? I felt I was missing a key part of the series. I was what am I missing? So I would be obsessively trying to figure out what I didn't see with the series. And I'd be people would say oh, I love it for all of these reasons, A, B, and C. And I'm okay, I don't agree with any of those. So I'm I just don't agree with those. And then I kind of got used to it with people. I think when people got to the point I was at in the series, I think the opinions were a bit more balanced. But from the sidelines, I could see a lot of the fan base and the fandom discourse getting more and more toxic, which I think just happens given the size and it's very young fan base. So young fan bases online do crazy shit. No one should be held to that standard and should, I saw this one meme that's every day I'm at risk of seeing the opinion of a 14-year-old. And that's just kind of the My Hero Academia fan base in general.
That's a big factor that I've noticed with just, and we haven't touched on it yet, but with the shonen fan bases, that a lot of these, because they're gateway anime, more casual, more mainstream reaching anime, that a lot of the fan bases for this are a lot younger, as they should be, because shonen.
Yeah, it's targeted towards them. So, fair enough. I'm the weeaboomer watching the show aimed at 12-year-olds and stuff. But
But
I think,
that's what makes it difficult at
Yeah.
times because, no one knew that well, maybe they did, but like that there'd still be like, 30-year-old, 20-year-old, Western, fans that are kind of like you have all these different ages mixed together, like on the same platform, talking about anime. So like, it's just different experiences. And it's like, sometimes people just end up talking past each other.
Definitely. And I think something I do want to say is that even when I found the fan base annoying, I never held the fan base against the series. I don't like when people do that because I see it. It's a common sentiment I see online where they're like, My Hero Academia's fan base ruins the series for me. And I think that's some weak shit. Like, honestly, I know we've all been there before where a fan base has definitely made us not want to watch or engage with a certain series. But like, I can't actually hold annoying people online against a series and say that's my opinion on the series. I think it's so important to like separate that and be like, okay, this is the work and these are the mosquitoes buzzing outside it. Like try and tone them down. Like don't hold the fan base against a series. Like that's not the same property. And it's tough. We've all been there, but like I never liked that. Like even when I was at my peak My Hero Academia hater zone, I would never hold the fan base against the series because they weren't my problem with the series. I had problems like connecting with it and it didn't match theirs, but like it wasn't the same thing. So, I mean, at this point, I consider myself pretty like neutral on the series. I see a lot of really dumb shit about the series for someone who like criticized it a lot. I'm like, these are not my criticisms. I don't want to be conflated with you guys. Like, my criticisms are like so much more in my head, they're a lot more grounded than like Deku cries and shit. Like that's like you have all those like frivolous things. And I'm like, that's not like really my issue though. Like that's not my issue. And I don't want to be like grouped in with these frivolous complaints that I think are just really unfair and kind of stupid and come back to people feeling like the series is overhyped. So they like nitpick really small elements that aren't actually big issues.
I've gotten so many comments just saying like, I fucking hate Deku because he cries. That's it.
And it's like, and to be fair, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of Deku, if I'm being honest. And I do think I found his crying grating, but it wasn't because he was crying. It was because I didn't find the other emotions he expressed interesting nor like stand out-ish. So it kind of felt like it was either like he was in the zone fighting or he was crying. And I'd like a wider breadth of emotions for his characters, which he might have experienced by now. I'm not caught up. So, I mean, I've seen some stuff that looks like he is experiencing those. But at the time, that was my complaint of like, it's not about him crying. It's about like, what else is he doing besides crying? And I didn't find there was much to it. But naturally, people were like, Deku sucks because he he doesn't have the drip, not goat, not raw, like, not like my goat MC who is like, super badass. And I'm like, that's not really the issue at hand.
Yeah, I've heard that criticism before, and it makes sense. I think to a certain extent, like with Deku, I think a lot of times that what makes it hard with My Hero Academia sometimes is for fans, it's hard to realize like how much time has actually passed for them. So realistically, like it makes sense that Deku, who was a crybaby, still cries like 40 episodes in because not really, like he's still kind of wrapping his head around the powers. Can you be frustrated by that? Is it valid? Yeah, sure. That's fine. But in terms of the timeline, it's not that unrealistic. It's sort of like not much time has passed. He's not gonna flip overnight like and just suddenly be this badass because he's not built that way. And this show makes it clear, and that's the whole point. And if you don't like that, then that's just that's just kind of you're expecting a different show or a different main character, and that's what it set up from the beginning. So
something I've noticed with the shonen formula that I think is really clever is the constant idea of like, so you got the students and then you have the senpai character, either as the teacher or like the senior, like sensei or the senpai character. And it's kind of like you have the student level characters who are supposed to show a lot of vulnerability and weakness and promise at the same time. But then you also have the senpai characters to show where they will be and how cool they will get. And they kind of tide us over in the meantime while the like weaker, wimpy kids get to that level. You can see the formula. I think it goes back to like, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura with Kakashi, and then you can see it even in the Outlier series, like Attack on Titan with Levi, Mikasa, Armin, and Eren, Mikasa, Armin, and then you get Levi. So like they always have that kind of pattern to them, and I think if you're able to connect with either like at least some of the student characters or the senpai character, then like you're kind of like able to be more patient while you wait for the more vulnerable characters to kind of get their badass swag to them, you know, and then you can kind of appreciate their growth later down the line. And we've seen that happen with like Eren. Like one of the biggest complaints with Eren in Attack on Titan season 1 was him screaming and crying and shit all the time. But because of the Mikasa and Levi characters who were the cool silent badasses, people were more patient in their waiting for Eren to become the great character that he does. And that's not to say he wasn't appropriate early on, but you're able to appreciate him so much more when you see the end goal. And I think,
I mean,
at least
in My Hero Academia, and I don't know if you were leading up to this point, but in My Hero Academia, that does exist, and
it does,
and that's All Might mainly, and the other teachers too. But All Might is like the pinnacle. But I don't know if at times maybe he seems like he's too kind of far removed and too untouchable that you kind of have to make a leap in your mind to think like, can they reach his level? You know?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, the whole point of All Might is showing how he's deteriorating from that point, which is a unique take that My Hero Academia has on that trope, or that formula, whatever. So he's declining, and then you have this period of like he's at his worst, Deku's not caught up, and then that's part of the motivator for him to like he has to catch up because he feels like he has such big shoes to fill. And I think looking back on that, that's pretty interesting, but I don't think it makes me connect with the student characters as much, even though I do admit that like All Might is ridiculously charismatic and likable. So you know, it does have an interesting take on that. But
no, I definitely could see like, you know, Deku needing to be you know, wanting to see more of a difference of emotion,
more like a personality
of emotion,
like dynamic personality. I shouldn't say he doesn't have a personality, because that is like that's a bit slanderous, but I would like a more dynamic personality from him. That's what I would probably need to connect with him more. But I mean, he's definitely not the worst protagonist I've seen, you know. And I think a lot of people do criticize him for the wrong reasons without taking into consideration why he is the way he is. But I do generally find him underwhelming from what I've seen. But I know that you have like, you really connect with him and you really like him.
Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, and I don't want to make a generalization for people that are more fans that are more fresh with the other shonen and can, you know, totally correct me on this. But at least in my personal experience with other shonen, the big three, even Dragon Ball, like I never really connected with the main characters. I sort of you know, they were just kind of there, you know, like Goku was there. I didn't think much of, and I'm going to offend some people, I didn't think much of Luffy in One Piece. Like, you know, I respected him, but I didn't really connect with him, and I didn't hold it against him because that's what I expected from shonen manga. Same thing with Naruto. You know, Naruto had his moments, but I never really connected with him because he always seemed, and I'm not saying he didn't grow later and all that stuff, but he always, for the most part, seemed the same to me. Like he was always up to the same antics. And then Bleach, you know, Ichigo was cool. He had that drip. And then, but that was kind of it. Like, I don't know. I just thought Ichigo was cool. And I didn't really connect with him beyond, like, I don't know. Like, at some points, I also felt like his personality was a little dry too. So, like, I didn't really connect with him too much either. And then Deku was like that first point with a shonen MC that, like, he felt really relatable. At least from the beginning with his initial premise and wanting to get powers and being weak and all that. Did he cry a lot? Yeah. You know, and that I could see how that could get grating, but it was just different from what I experienced up until that point. So, you know, I cut him some slack possibly. And I resonated with that whole story of, I guess, the mentorship that All Might provided him. And then that whole theme of passing the torch.
Yeah.
And I think I just liked what My Hero Academia was doing because everything in it kind of felt fresh to me because I started it before the anime aired. I just, friends had recommended the manga. I picked up the manga and I just like binged, like I just kept reading till like, I think the end of the, like in the same night, like, or same like 2 nights or whatever, to the end of the All for One versus All Might.
That fight was
arc.
wild. That was
and
a
that
wild
to me,
fight.
in the manga, like just all the themes, everything just resonated so hard. It was like really, really good. And what I liked that it was doing, because I was never really into like superhero comics growing up. I was always preferred anime or like, you know, I like superhero shows now, but I never was into the comics because like I always like more of like a story and a plot progression, not kind of, you know, just them kind of
episodic. We talked about that.
Yeah, I'm not too big into episodic stuff. And so like what I liked about My Hero Academia is like, oh, it's taking this like Western like concept and it's like using it to turn it into actually something like interesting in terms of a story, but it's also paying homage to all these other heroes. And it's like so cool. Like I never thought it could make me interested in like the superhero world and all that. And then you had, you know, Deku and All Might's relationship. And then all of those things just were really working well together. And I was like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, after the All for One versus All Might fight, I feel like some arcs after that were sort of like okay, like, you know, it was sort of just checking a box. You know, I didn't really hold it much against it because it was sort of like, all right, they have to get their, you know, their license, they got to do this. But I could see how like some after that were hit or miss in terms of interest, but it still kept the story moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's totally fair too. And I think that's really cool. I also, I do have to give the most credit where credit is due. The art of the manga is like absolutely top tier, like some of the best of all time, like without a doubt. There is no, I mean, I was going to say there's no competition, but that's a bit mean, but like, I do think it is very much like top of the top. So I don't want to take anything away from that. I think it's, you know, I think there's a good argument to be made that it's the best shonen artwork out there. I don't know if I would say it, but if you said it, I'd be like,
you just said it.
I said you might. I said you might because then I just remembered JoJo, and I was like, JoJo's got some drip too, but like,
well, JoJo's art style has evolved so much over time.
JoJo's just like wild too, but they're both very different. Like they both have very different, like I think, strengths and weaknesses. But that's why I was like, I was thinking of some other ones, and I was like, yeah, I'll just say like up there.
My Hero Academia has like the most consistently like good, like on point, like art. You know, it's gotten better, obviously, but I just remember like, and I guess like I really like the style. There was like a lot of shading and stuff, and it reminded me of Western comics, but more with the Japanese feel. Like I remember one of the things that struck me about My Hero Academia and made me want to read it, and I had seen it for a while, but I just never touched the manga, was like some of the covers of the manga. The art for it was like, oh, this is really cool, you know?
Yeah. I haven't even read it, but that one cover of Endeavor and Hawks, you know, the one like the fire and like and his wings. That's like, I haven't even read that. I'm not a My Hero Academia fan. And I'm like, yeah, that's like one of the best manga volume covers ever. Like just straight up, just like credit where credit's due. That just looks sick. So, so even it's got even the big saltiness. I'm not that salty anymore, but it had the previous salty me being like, yeah, that's some drip. That's some good stuff.
Yeah. So it's basically saying like, if you're not into the anime, you could it's an easy transition into the manga. Now I'm caught up and it's like, you know, you're not missing, I don't know. It's really easy to take in. It's not it's I don't know. It feels just like the anime.
Yeah. I think it's like both. I think it, you know, a lot of people feel like they're missing something going from one to the other. If anything, I feel like, you know, probably gaining more appreciation for the manga reading it. But
yeah, I definitely think that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have more respect for it in retrospect. I think it's very much deserving of being like discussed on this level. You know, I think I have a lot of respect for the accomplishments it's made and how they have like a semi-consistent airing schedule. I don't respect as much from what I've heard that they're taking a lot of the talent away from the anime series and allocating that more towards the movie that they know that they're going to make a lot more money from.
Oh no.
I understand the business decision, but I don't think that's cool to the people who want to see the content being adapted. They want to see that be elevated, and I feel bad for them. Like if I was in the same spot, I'd be like, fuck the movies. I just make my shit. Just make the shit that got you big in the first place. So I feel for them.
I didn't even know that the movies, you know, I'd rather get the canon arcs, you know, animated versus some movies which some of us might watch, some of us might not.
And you're not going to watch it in a timely manner because they have to do like movie releases, and we don't know how. And we know how that is with COVID. That's so tough. So like the movie distributions are so difficult, and it's like, please just give me the TV anime. I'd rather just have that. So I definitely feel for the fans. It almost feels like it got too big for its own good in that sense of like they're trying to capitalize on it in the most monetary way possible without kind of like doing right by the fans who want the manga content that's getting adapted to get the best treatment it can get.
Yeah. One of the things though criticisms I have heard about My Hero Academia a lot, which I don't think I don't know if because I'm not fresh on other stuff that I would get, but that the highs in My Hero Academia are never as high as like anything else in like other shonen. Like other shonen have done everything in My Hero Academia better. So My Hero Academia always ends up feeling like mid. And I've never really had that issue with it because I feel like My Hero Academia is always building on what came before. And even now, up to date in the manga, everything that's been presented has been built up from what came before, making the highs later on even higher. I don't know.
Yeah. Which what are they comparing it to? Like, are they comparing it to like series that have completed, or like longer running series, or like their peers at the same time?
I think it's a mix. I think it's mostly the longer running completed series, but also, maybe some of the current long running series that are still going.
Yeah,
I think One Piece counts since.
Yeah, so it's both. I mean, I do think it's kind of, I've had some discourse with people where they're like, they'll be saying like, okay, like My Hero Academia best manga of all time in one sentence. And then when someone's like, I have issues with it not doing this as well as something like One Piece, Naruto, whatever, they'll be like, well, I think it's still too soon to say how it's going to do. And it's like, okay, if you're going to judge it based on what's already out there, you can't play the game of like, it's too soon to tell. If you're going to call it the best of all time, you should be able to criticize it in the same, framing. So I do think at this point, back in the day, I think there was a lot more wiggle room. But at this point, I do think it's fair to kind of compare it to like the Narutos and Bleaches, because it has been going on for a bit. But at the same time, I do, it is tough to tell. It's all like, it's tough to tell when to see what's going forward. And I do think it's had, based on what I've heard, secondhand knowledge, it does seem like it's had some big arcs. It's had the big moments. So, I mean, I think at this point, it's like the big arcs either hit for you or they don't. But I think it's fair to say people know what a big My Hero Academia arc looks like.
Yeah. And I feel like My Hero Academia is one of those that I feel like it has to end first before people can make that final, I guess, consensus, because I feel like it's been building up stuff and it hasn't revealed all its cards. Whereas with some other shonen, shot in the dark here, but with some other shonen, I think like a lot of those arcs were like self-contained and they were really good for that one arc, and then it just moved on to the next thing. And sure, like it continued the story, but it wasn't building some large overarching thing, where I think My Hero Academia has been trying to do that since the beginning.
Yeah, and that definitely makes sense because it seems like the world is pretty dynamic. Like it's all growing at the same time. So like the events of this arc play into this other thing. So I think that's definitely fair.
Yeah, which is what I really enjoy about My Hero Academia. It's like that world building is really interesting. Yeah. But
Yeah, I think that's really fair. I am admittedly very excited to read some of the arcs I haven't gotten to, and I have my predicted 3 favorite characters by the time I'm done. I think I will be an Endeavor stan. Funny, did I tell you about the time when I said I think I'm going to be an Endeavor stan because he pisses off half the fan base? And then in my Curious Cat, people were like sending me death threats.
Oh my God, what the hell?
It was so funny. It was really funny.
I'm glad you take it so well. It's like, it's hilarious.
Well, I don't know if it counts as a death threat. They were like saying, he's abuser, you deserve to die. And it was like, how do you take that sentence seriously in any capacity? Like, we're talking about a fictional character. And I just think it's really funny because it's the one, because to me, it's like the first time I've talked about My Hero Academia in like a year. It's the first time I've said something nice about it in like context. And then I'm getting death threats for it. So I'm like,
listen,
if you insist, I'll go back to slandering it. If you insist.
It's too early to get into morality in anime and manga. Let's save that for another episode. But
it's true.
I am very curious to see where you end up once you catch up. We should have this conversation, and hey, maybe we can have an episode titled Endeavor Best Character, Absolute GOAT, you know.
Focus on me. Oh no, sorry, my camera fucking up. Endeavor Goat did nothing wrong. We can add him to the. Do we do a Do Nothing Wrong cast where we just mention other people?
But it'll be its own like separate thing.
Yeah, that would be fun. I mean, he looks like obviously he's done bad things, but he looks like an interesting character. I also think Hawks will be my second favorite.
I definitely think Hawks will be up there for you.
Yeah, I think I'm predictable at this point, and it's he's voiced by Yakumura, my favorite voice actor, and I'm a fan of Beastars, so halfway there. And then I think Shiggy, I forget his full name. Shigaraki, he's going to be number 3. I predict that as my 3.
When you catch up to the manga.
When I catch up, I think I will be an edgy 14-year-old when I catch up. I
can totally see it.
Yeah.
Totally tracks.
Yeah, so I'm already halfway there. But they look like really interesting, and that makes me happy. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, so I think you need to catch up first before we get we'll go back through all the arcs, and then we'll really dig in.
We could do a breakdown arc by arc. That would be fun.
Yeah. And then
My Hero Academia podcast.
We could be like, all right, where this arc faltered, where like it was reaching a high, but then the conclusion. We'll go into it.
Do we do a tournament arc for favorite arcs in anime and manga? Does that sound fun?
Well, would that be
That'd be separate?
All anime and manga,
like
not just
all of them. Yeah. Yeah, we could have people submit what they their favorite arcs, and we can like comment on them. That would be fun.
I mean, Golden Age, Berserk. That's it.
That's it. That's top 4 for me, but I have a few above it, kind of. But I do love Golden Age. I'm glad that you like Golden Age too.
Oh, I love Golden Age. It's my favorite arc in Berserk.
Okay, I'm glad you agree on that because I know that there are a lot of
dissenters.
Dissenters. I was gonna be like hipsters who like Falcon of the Millennium Empire more, and they're like.
You know what's interesting? I haven't kept track too much of my favorite arcs in anime specifically. Like this is my favorite arc, and like I haven't done that too much with stuff. So I'd have to like really like think about it because a lot of stuff that I've watched, because there's a lot of anime that are like 12 episodes, 26 episodes, so they don't have arcs. It's just sort of the whole thing. Yeah. So this is more for what, like long running shows
or anything, because there are some small series that have them. Like like they do have them in like Hyoka. They have smaller arcs. Like you can do them, but it's tougher. But
well, I'm down. I have to just, I think similar to my anime list arc.
This is the new Onimaru arc. I'm so excited. The arc X arc.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, I do have a favor for that one too. But I think I gotta finish all my scoring for all my anime, and then see where I end up with my median score. And
Noah's arc discussion.
And then pick my arcs.
That would be fun. Okay. If people like that, comment below and bully us into it. Because I mean, there's only so much bullying I can do. So help me out.
Yeah, Shaw's she's gonna be exposed soon. She's a bully.
I am a bully. I'm exposing myself right now. Yes, speaking of bullying, so you didn't say you could say much on it. I did the classic, watch 10 episodes of the series, drop it, and then promised to pick up on it again, and then didn't. And of course, I'm talking about Black Clover. Black Clover.
You couldn't even do it the service of pronouncing it right.
Black Clover. I think I said like Black Clover at some point because I remember the opening is like, what's it? Something Clover. What's that stupid Black Clover opening? That's like actually pretty good.
That stupid Black Clover opening. That's
it's stupid because I can't remember it.
Yeah.
Black Rover. There it is. It sounds like a fucking Sesame Street name. I'm just saying. But Black Clover has good openings. Okay. So I can't make a judgment call again because I'm not angering the Black Clover.
We could totally like clip this out of context and just clip it together like Shaw going off insulting Black Clover.
That would be funny. That would be funny. I'm like, don't hit me. I'm sorry. I know. So I feel Black Clover is just like one of those series that's like a landmine no matter what. No matter what you say, it's a landmine. But so credit where credit is due. It is a long-running series that I think has changed a lot from the beginning and presents interesting elements. But I've not gotten to them yet because I only watched the first 10 episodes. I thought it was going to be 51 episodes, and then they're like, just kidding, we're ongoing. So then I never really caught up, but I think I will at some point. I think I'm going to catch up. I just I got to do it. Yeah. But I heard the manga's better than the anime, but then the anime has like every like every 20 episodes, the anime will have like a big Sakuga fight scene, and it'll be like on Sakuga Boro, and then like people will be talking about how impressive it is, how experimental it is. So it always kind of like justifies itself existing in these like interesting ways, even when people have issues with it. But like the common consensus I've heard is it gets a lot better, has interesting characters, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. But I'm sorry. I mean,
and if you have an issue with the screaming, just read the manga. You
and
won't hear any screaming.
Probably what I'll have to do. But I do remember, it's like I have yet to see a series that's so isolating just from the first episode voice acting. Like, you know, such a like extreme reaction from people that were like, no, this is not it.
I have to ask, because I haven't even touched the first episode, never read the manga. Yeah. So this is all kind of similar to you with other shonen. Secondhand experience here. Was the screaming, like from your experience, actually that grating? Or is
it was terrible. It was
without
awful.
Being influenced by anyone else?
No, it was awful. It was actually terrible. Because it's like, okay, you know how I was saying before, first off, disclaimer, I do have My Hero Academia above Black Clover. So with all my shade, you know, take some solace in that. Not solstice, Jesus. The Black Clover screaming was like, it was a meme, but like, no, it was pretty bad. Because you know how I was saying with like My Hero Academia, I wish that Deku expressed more emotions outside of crying.
Black Clover was too much emotion?
Black Clover was like Deku crying, but he was just screaming over everything. Like Deku crying was like pretty understandable. This dude is screaming over every shit, like everything. He's just screaming, and it's like that weird like rolling R, like screaming nonstop. And you're like, pick inside voices, bro. Pick one. But
I've heard from fans, and I guess because they've gotten far enough into the manga and the series, that like it's just people blowing that out of proportion. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that bad later on. Once you get past that, it's sort of, you know, this is starting to sound like the typical, like, hey, once you get past this first 70 episodes of this, it gets good, man.
We've all been in a situation where we have to justify that it gets good later. I think we've all had to be there at some point, whether we like it or not. And like, I mean, I'm a Gintama fan. That's like our bread and butter. That's like our thing. But
actually, I want to get into this now. And I probably, you know what? Yeah, I want to get into it.
Do it.
Should we give stuff a second chance past the first or second episode if it doesn't capture us? If it doesn't do its job after, like, within those episodes, does it deserve justifying 20 to 30 episodes to catch up? And I probably shouldn't be the one bringing this up, since, you know, I've kind of
world trigger. That's what I mean. Like, we all have one.
Yeah.
So for me, it always comes down to like what you're looking for in a series, because 9 out of 10 times when I'm watching a series, it's because I'm curious about that specific series. And I know that I want a fully educated, fully informed opinion on that series. So I'm going to watch it from beginning to end. Right. So, you know, something like Gintama, when I went into Gintama, I wasn't like, you know, 3-episode rule or like, you know, 30-episode rule. I was like, I'm finishing Gintama one way or another. I'm going to have an opinion on it. We'll see if it's positive or negative, but like, I'm watching all of it. And with that mindset, I wasn't waiting. I wasn't sitting around being like, you know, I wasn't sitting around waiting with a certain expectation. Like, oh, I did have expectations, but I wasn't like, you know, one more episode and then I'm dropping it. I was like, okay, this part still kind of sucks. This episode was fine. This still kind of sucks, bro. Like, come on. But I mean, I think it was a really rewarding experience by the end, because I got to points where I was like, okay, this is some of the best I've ever seen in the medium. Like, I got to that point and it felt justified for me to do that. But I always give people the fair warning that like, hey, this took me a while to really enjoy. I'm not going to pretend that this was like a 10 out of 10 from the beginning. I do think it got to a 10 out of 10 point, but I wasn't there. So I always have to be honest about that. But I mean, if other people are just like turning something on because they have limited time and they want to be entertained immediately, and they don't have the time or patience to give other things like, you know, as many chances as I would, then I think it's totally fair to drop it. But I also think it should always come with a disclaimer that like, you didn't finish it. You know, no one wants you to say, hey, I watched 3 episodes of this 24-episode show and I'm going to, you know, and I'm going to speak on it as if I've seen 24 episodes. You know, there's nothing wrong with just being like, watch 3 episodes. It's not good. I don't see it changing. It's not for me. But, you know, it's with the intention that your opinion does not carry the same weight as someone who has finished it. That's my, that's my qualifier on it. So that's why when I say, okay, I've only seen 10 episodes of Black Clover, and admittedly, it got better than the first 2 episodes, which did have a lot of screaming. I could start seeing like more redeeming qualities for Black Clover and why I should go forward with it. I just did the usual, didn't keep up with it when it was airing, lost track, and now there's like 100-something episodes. But I'm never going to pretend that I have a fully formed opinion on Black Clover when I've seen 10 episodes. And like, how many episodes are out now? Like hundreds? I don't even know. So
90, 100? I don't know. But
I'll find out right now.
Would you consider continuing it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would definitely consider continuing it. I mean, would I possibly read the manga instead? Possibly. Or I might just go back to the TV series since I watched 10 episodes of it. So, okay, it's got 170. Double checked. 170 episodes.
That's a lot. God damn.
Yeah. Yeah, they just kept going with it. But
that's like old school Naruto binge right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would go back and watch it. I'm not against it because I want to have a full opinion on it. I want to know.
Black Clover group watch. Let's go.
Could you imagine? That would be fun, actually. We could react to it. But yeah,
I'd be down.
I would be down. We could do that if people are down. Or if we're down, if we have the time and we're down, that's what
probably really don't have the time, and I shouldn't be committing to it. But
yeah, but it would be fun anyway. But
yeah, no, but I think it's fair. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's your take on that?
I mean, I don't have too much of a take on Black Clover because again, I haven't experienced any of it. But I've
just the principle of giving things a second chance.
Yeah, I know.
I got you off mid-sentence. My bad.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, I feel like I shouldn't. I'm also just as curious as you with wanting to understand why something is good or why is it as well received or what's the whole thing about it. So I'll commit as many episodes as I need to. I mean, I did that with Steins Gate. I really was not, as typical as it is for people. I was not enjoying the first 5 episodes. I was just like, I don't care about this cast. I don't care about what's going on here. But this show is praised for a reason. And, I need to understand. And then I heard it, and then I felt validated. Someone said, no, it's just like the first 4 or 5 episodes. I'm like, oh, okay. It's not just me. Great.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And then I got to where I needed to. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is amazing. And then, but, I've heard other people that enjoyed it from the beginning, which I think you enjoyed it from the beginning.
I would hope so. Yeah. So I think I spent like 10 minutes of the first episode finding Okabe kind of annoying. And then I saw everyone shit on him and I was like, yes, this is my show. Okay. So, and then I loved him like immediately. But no, I mean, I definitely understand why people find it slow at the beginning. I think we've all had series like that where then you can look back in retrospect and be like, okay, this is why it had to be like that in order to set up everything.
Yeah. So it's also like, it's interesting because you part of that is you have to kind of, I guess I want to say like check your sources. Like you check with a friend that you have a similar taste to. And then, if they tell you, if they vouch for it and be like, listen, man, this is amazing. I'm like, all right, you know what? I trust you. And then, sometimes you'll get burned, but most of the time you're good.
Definitely most of the time. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, it's like my top 1. I can't even, could you imagine if I was like, no second chances, only, if it's only good from episode 1, then go forward. And then my favorite is Steins Gate. It would be like, these don't add up. Like these two don't add up. But I mean, like, I think half of my favorites are considered like slow starts that get good later series. So, I mean, it's kind of my brand unintentionally, but.
Yeah, no, and I know I'll probably enjoy Black Clover once I get into it later on or whenever it starts picking up. Because that's usually how I am with Shonen in general. Once it starts really like getting exciting, it's very easy for me to start feeling like a kid and just enjoying the ride of the crazy power scaling or whatever's going on. And plus, I already have a friend that's like, he's like my inside like Shonen informant. So he keeps up with all the latest series and he kind of lets me know how it's doing. He's like, and he's told me a lot of times, like, dude, you're not reading Black Clover? It's amazing. I'm like, okay, all right.
Okay, it's like if you insist. I think from what it looks like, think Black Clover does nail the underdog aspect really well. That's what it looks like, and I can respect that a lot.
You gotta love an underdog.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just curious here. Have you read Hajime no Ippo?
No, I have to watch or I don't know if can I read that? That's like 1,000 chapters. I don't want to be that guy when we're talking about like long running shows, but like 1,000 chapters is like wild shit.
Yeah, I remember. I think the same friend told me in college. He's like, he spent his, and this is when it was like 800 chapters. It was close to 900, and he's like, yeah, I spent my whole summer reading it.
Oh my god! I mean, I think it's doable, but I'd probably watch it first. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't read the manga. I've only seen it. I've been meaning to get around it, but hey, the 1,000 chapter barrier.
1,000 chapters still airing, like still publishing. I mean,
but I've read the manga. I mean, sorry, watched the anime. Really enjoyed it, so I'd recommend that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's on my list. I've had a list that I have not really crossed off from of like most anticipated series, and it includes Hajime no Ippo and Ashita no Joe. So those are the boxy boys shows that I'm looking forward to.
I gotta get to that one too.
That's, that one's just like a classic, apparently. So.
Yeah, it's more for the classic status than of.
It's for the elitism. Yeah, they both check different boxes, and it's like the sports knowledge box, and then you get the elitism, but also sports knowledge box.
The clout box.
Yeah, I've seen shows older than the 90s. I swear, I've seen 80s shows. Trust me.
I've seen 500 anime titles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's all I got to say on Black Clover. I got to read it at some point, but I do, from what I've heard, I do think it falls into the, the battle shonen formula in terms of both delivering on the hype and being, I think, more well received than My Hero Academia. Like, I feel like the people that are really into it, they're not as divisive, the fan base.
Well, I think the Black Clover fan base has been playing defense for so long that they're a bit more unified in themselves. So they've always been up to bat against everyone. So they're just like hard seasoned warriors. Meanwhile, My Hero Academia fan base is so widespread that they're just like society. They're just society, and
we've started cannibalizing each other. That's how widespread we are.
It's like they're just everything wrong with society because they are society. So it's just like they're just everyone. And then it's like, and they're always on display because the show is so popular. But I think in general, My Hero Academia is more well received than Black Clover.
Yeah, I mean, like it's more in terms of it's more people watch it, I think, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I just meant more in terms of the fan base being divided or not. But I get what you're saying. Yeah,
it's like, it's tough to call. The fan base is just like, it's so tough. I just think that it's like we live in a society meme is just the My Hero Academia fan base, which is ironic given the themes of the show. So yeah,
I feel like it was maybe the manga author's plan. Just,
he knew. He knew the lines. Yeah.
And then in terms of, I guess I'm gonna just maybe, is it fair if I group these together in terms of and not even just the manga, but like the anime as visual spectacles. Shonen that have drawn in a ton of both new anime fans, casual anime fans alike. Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen in the past 2 years.
It's tough to call them both on that level because My Hero Academia kind of invented that when they had the big season 2 tournament arc. That was a big Sakuga fest on Twitter that drew a lot of people in. So that kind of laid the groundwork. But I think Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen are enough of their own like properties, but they did capitalize on the like dope looking shit on Twitter that pulled in like millions of people to watch
because like the scale of specifically Demon Slayer for that episode 19, how much buzz was just around that episode.
It's so wild. That's like kind of like wild in general to look back on because I think like, I don't know about you, but like when I was watching it at the time, I was like attached to so many other like fights and scenes, and I wouldn't have like guessed that would be the one. But then in retrospect, it makes sense. Like they got the emotional family insert song, like it had all the pieces lined up, and of course it looked great. But in my head, I was like, but I like so many of these other episodes better. But I mean, my tastes do not have to line up with millions of people online and like ninja shouting it out. So.
I mean, I thought that episode when it aired and I watched it, it was awesome visually and kind of how it all kind of went down. In hindsight, I'm not that attached to it and I'm not like, I think about other episodes in the series and it's like, okay, it was like one amazing moment, but people are kind of using this moment to kind of put the whole series on this like pedestal.
Yeah.
And that to me was like, I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it was one amazing moment, and then other good stuff.
Yeah. So were you like kind of like lukewarm on it while watching it?
Yeah, I was really warm on it for the
Possibly
most part.
cold, possibly cold warm on it, as in
No,
just not cold.
I was more cold on it in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
like first 8 episodes, 9 episodes, and then once it got into like 10 and up, like what I was feeling for a lot of it. I think I was feeling what we were talking about earlier, that FOMO.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to get it. I
yeah,
wanted to get what people were feeling. What are people raving about? Like I just wanted to get it.
yeah.
And I didn't again start to appreciate it a little more till after like episode 10 or 11 or something. I was like, okay, there's some interesting, like cool stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but I think what brought it to that peak was that episode 18, 19.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, this is good. And then, but if I look at it as a whole package, it's like, oh, okay, I'm still like lukewarm on it. It's not like the
Yeah.
best thing ever.
Yeah, it was interesting because I still like I think I generally agree on that. I have a I guess I have a different experience because at some point I wanted to like read the manga for like the 3 like currently new series. So I got the first volume of The Promised Neverland, Demon Slayer, and Dr. Stone. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna read all 3 of these, see how I feel. Obviously, I love The Promised Neverland the most. That was like by far the strongest. Dr. Stone's was really good. And Demon Slayer's was consistently the weakest, except for the last chapter, which had the best cliffhanger.
Mhm.
So Demon Slayer's art is very rough compared to the anime, but still gets the job done. But I had a connection to it when they had that like what was it, the test with among all the flowers, and you had the like giant demon who like ate his like
Oh,
students.
the wisteria trees or whatever.
Yeah, that one where that whole arc where it's like he ate his teachers past students, and that was like a cool emotional like I feel like that captured the emotional resonance of the series well, combined with like the badass action and how they all are kind of connected. So that part for me was really cool. Like that was kind of the highlight for me for a bit. And I think that's just and then I mean I kept watching it and I really liked other parts later on, but I do think it's an interesting series because I'm kind of with you. Like I don't buy into the hype on the same degree, but I think it's kind of impossible to kind of buy into the hype to what it became. It just became such a like lightning rod of attention and praise and like just energy, like just so much energy for the series. And I think it's kind of tough to match that unless you think it's like a 10 out of 10 best thing ever. Otherwise you're already kind of underwhelmed.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. That's kind of where I was at, and and that's actually how I sort of feel now, or a few months back with Jujutsu Kaisen,
Mm-hmm.
because like, I mean, I wasn't as like, I wouldn't even say like lukewarm on it. It's tough to describe. Like I was kind of like I was watching it week to week, and I saw like everyone like from the beginning or first few episodes just saying like, oh, it's so good. Oh my god, it's like hitting so like great, and the just kind of raving about it.
Yeah.
And to me, I was just a little skeptical. I was like, nothing against them. I'm glad they're like enjoying it, but I
Yeah.
just wasn't seeing it, and I
Yeah.
was
It's like
sort
that
of like,
FOMO disconnect.
yeah, I was just like, you know what? It hasn't reached that point for me yet, and I hope it does. So I'm just kind
Yeah.
of waiting, till it gets to that point.
It is funny since we're bringing them up in connection and comparison because I do think what's interesting is I think Demon Slayer does a great job of hitting those emotional deaths, emotional sacrifice moments really well, especially for characters you don't know for a while, but are like can still get attached. Like I got attached to like those the students who were like training him, and then they turned out to be eaten by that demon thing, and I was like, I didn't even think I cared about them, but this whole thing has a good emotional resonance to it. And then
Yeah.
we saw that later on in the notorious, really famous episode 19. Like that
Yeah.
emotional resonance really obviously got to a lot of people, which is why they connected with the series. And I think it always did a good job of showing how, tragic the deaths were by the demons around them, and they didn't treat life lightly, which was really impressive for the series. Like, you're supposed to not take life for granted in Demon Slayer, and I think they communicated that really well. But
yeah, that I agree with. I think that it does really well.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna say it's like Walking Dead tier, but it's like the closest out of the newer series to having that kind of harsh realism to it. Not realism, whatever. That harshness to it. Where, like, you feel like people could die easily. You're on the edge of your seat.
I get what you're saying, like, conveying both the brutality of life, and the frailty of life, but also using that to emphasize, like, the importance of kindness or mercy or whatever.
And exactly. Those are probably the main themes I'd say for the series. But interestingly enough, I think Demon Slayer has, like, I think some of the characters are just, like, kind of just really tough to get behind. Of course, I'm talking about Zenitsu. I was thinking about it because I was talking with my friend about how he was like, I was like, if you had to recommend one series to show off the strengths of anime, what would you say? And he was like, I think Demon Slayer is just, like, the perfect pick. You can be a fan of animation from it. And I'm like, but Zenitsu exists. And he was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it's just like, I know everyone's like, he's not that bad. He gets better later, whatever. The fact that he is just, like, a blemish on the series, like, in my mind, he is a blemish on the series. Like, I cannot mention the series or recommend it in good conscience without being like, this one character is kind of annoying, but if you look past it, it's fun. He's just, like, really annoying and grating. And I think, and I don't get annoyed by characters that often. I'm never, like, viscerally like, this one dude possibly ruins the show. And I do think he possibly ruins the show for a lot of people. Like, he's just such a, like, aggravating person, even though he does have really cool moments. And, like, his backstory was, like, kind of decent, but just, like, he's the Asta of his series, but, like, possibly worse than Asta. So, like, he's, like, he's just that blemish. Yeah, it's just, like, if he didn't exist in the same capacity, maybe, like, screamed less, did something less, then I could recommend it more. But I think he really does hold it back.
I'll tell you what, I don't mind Zenitsu too much.
That's impressive. You're a kind person.
What?
You're a kind person.
I think at first, I don't remember vaguely. I think I was like, this kid's kind of, like, annoying. Like, he's too much, Yeah. And I think a friend, maybe he was ahead in the manga or whatever, and he was just like, oh, he'll grow on you or something like that and whatever. And then I kind of kept watching, and then I was like, yeah, okay, he's not too bad. And then once he did the cool things, I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he's not that bad. And I don't know, he kind of grew on me. So
I do like some of his fight scenes. So, like, I don't hate him. I'm just frustrated at why he is the way he is, and that it's a barrier for some people. And I
mean how he's cowardly?
Just, like, the excessive presentation of him is, like, not even the cowardly. I can get behind cowardly, just constantly screaming, like, being so annoying so consistently. And it's like, I understand it, but, like, take it down a few notches, because I respect the character work going into it, but I don't appreciate the execution. So, yeah. But that was a long-winded way. And I mean, I kind of lukewarm on a lot of Demon Slayer characters. So it's interesting that it can have emotional resonant moments when I'm not really attached to the characters. Meanwhile, I think Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't necessarily do the best job of nailing those emotional character moments. I'm thinking of Yuji's grandfather dying in the first episode. Honestly, didn't give a shit. Then you got what I call, probably shouldn't call it that, with the edgy high schooler kid whose mom gets killed by a demon. So then he kind of is, like, demon-like, and he kind of sounds like a school shooter, and he's like, like, hate society, these bullies suck ass, like, I hate them. And then, like, they presented him as, like, someone who could be part of the friend group, but then he died, so it's, like, tragic because of his missed potential. But I never really gave a shit about him, to be honest, like, in those contents. I, like, just didn't care. Meanwhile, I like the cast a lot more. I like Yuji and his group. I like Gojo. I like Toto. We talked about that before. Even some of the other side characters, like the panda, the two sisters, like, there's a lot more characters I can get behind. but I enjoy them a lot more in the kind of casual in between moments more than the emotional moments. So I think they both have kind of like very different strengths and weaknesses for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good distinction. I think going back to Demon Slayer really quick, was Zenitsu, like, I would never put him like as a top character. I would never, you know, if I had to go in a fist fight, you know, to defend him, I wouldn't. I would just walk out.
Not the hill to die on.
You know, I think it'd be funnier that way. But he's all right. You know, I don't know. I kind of, once I started looking at Inosuke, who's also can be a little bit, you know,
he's a bit much,
but he's okay. Once you start looking at them as like the two lovable idiots, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm good with them. You know, they're supposed to be like this. And then Tanjiro's supposed to like balance them out. But then when you get back to Jujutsu Kaisen, I definitely, like you were saying, that's what it is. I couldn't articulate it, but it's the emotional dryness of Jujutsu Kaisen that I have trouble connecting with.
Yeah.
Just because like, you know, the characters for me just feel like, including the cast, just feels like they're just there for most of it. And it's like, all right, you know, I'm watching them do their thing, but I'm not as invested. I mean, I did like Yuji's character in the first episode, the way he was presented. I'm like, oh, you know, I can get behind him. But then after that, it just kind of like, and I don't know if it's because I just wasn't invested in what was going on.
Yeah.
Like kind of just this curse of the week sort of thing. That I just, you know, I just feel like these guys are just there. I don't know what I'm, you know, rooting for them to do. But once they brought in the other school, or the other school that had Toto in it and all of that, I started enjoying that dynamic more a little bit. But once the episode with Toto hit, with he made up the ridiculous backstory that Yuji was his best friend, and he had this whole fabricated flashback, and it was just so over the top, and like that humor behind that was just hilarious. And also like, that whole thing, that just whole segment was just really, really funny. And it's that quirky part that like I'm like, okay, I can fuck with this. This is good.
Yeah. I think, I definitely connected with the humor more too. I don't know if you saw the, you know how they do like the side stories at the end after the ending?
Yeah, I sometimes watch them.
Yeah, sometimes. Did you see those I think it's the last one and the second to last episode of, it's like Megumin getting hit on at the station, and then they all like kind of jump into action to try and protect him. And then it turns out the woman is just asking for directions. He's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It's like really funny.
I don't think I watched that one.
I'll send it to you. It's like 2 seconds long, but something like that is just like really funny how the dynamic of everyone works.
I mean, I watched one where Toto went to go see his idol or something.
Because he loves his idol, and it's really funny.
And she really ended up liking one of the girls. I forgot.
Yeah.
I
forget her name, but yeah.
That was all like pretty funny, and I like the dynamic that you know, they all started to kind of develop with each other. Like Kugisaki with the glasses one, her senpai with the green hair. And I don't know. That was all like really interesting, but I guess like I started enjoying that arc more, but then once they left, I kind of started feeling a void again, and I was like, I don't know. Like I'm interested in them. I did like that final fight. That the villain there kind of reminded me of a JoJo character for some reason.
Yeah, I could see that. He looked, it's like his weird back. That's what it is.
The back and like some posing and you know, being overly muscular. And then I was like, all right, I wonder if this is a reference, but I did enjoy the show. The show had a lot of references, so you know. But I don't know, like towards the end, I was like, okay, you know, still like a little lukewarm, but parts about it that I enjoy, that I'd still give it more of a chance, but I don't know.
I do think what's cool about Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen is they both have this interesting sense of urgency that in Demon Slayer, it's like Tanjiro trying to save his sister from becoming a full demon, which gives like a lot of urgency. Like we got moves to make. And Jujutsu Kaisen has this interesting sense of urgency that like he's ingested the like biggest demon in the world, and like it's that struggle for balance between retaining himself, but then sometimes relying on Sukuna, is that his name?
Yeah, Sukuna. Yeah.
When things get tough, but then he's losing control of himself, and how like that makes him a target for everyone. I think both of those drive some interesting sense of urgency for upcoming plot events. And they both kind of imply a bittersweet ending if things don't get resolved in a timely manner. I know Demon Slayer has resolved itself, but I'm speaking like hypothetically just from the premise.
Yeah, they're both kind of like dark in that sense.
Yeah, they're more dark than other series, which are a lot more coming of age hopefulness. And these two both have coming of age elements, but there is that sense of impending dread. That,
foreboding doom.
Yeah, the doom of like what's going to happen.
Well, because you have the curses, which is like the malignance, the badness of humanity, sort of, and then you have demons. So it's both sort of, the tumors of
the tumors of society.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they both have like they both have a lot of intrigue in that sense. So I don't know. I think it's something with Jujutsu Kaisen's humor in the second half that pulled me in, and I got really interested even with the main cast. But I definitely understand where you're coming from. And even by saying like pulls me in, I'm like more interested in it than other series, but I wouldn't say it's like that 10 out of 10, like best of all time type of thing. But I mean, they both got really great adaptations that very much elevated their source material. I've read parts of Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen. They have good art that gets the job done, but Ufotable and Mappa definitely added a lot of artistic aesthetic flair that helped really bring everything to light. So bring it to life. Yeah, so they both very much I don't like saying that, like people say well, they're just popular because of their adaptations, and it's kind of like there has to be something in there for them to get an adaptation. Like they're not just like randomly picking blank pages and saying like, we're going to adapt this and make it the best anime of all time. Like there's a lot of good qualities to the mangas as well. So I think, they just elevated it for the medium and then it clicked with a lot of people. So
yeah, there's only so much you can elevate shit if it's already,
if it's already bad, like
just shit in HD.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. But pretty much, like I think with Jujutsu Kaisen, I feel like with Jujutsu Kaisen, it's one of those like I feel like I have to dig into the manga for that one, even though that goes against what you just said about, the animation elevated it, but
it makes you want to, and that's like kind of the job that I think both of them, they make you want to go read forward. Yeah,
like I have to read forward to like really to answer that FOMO to see if I can like, okay, what is it about this?
Yeah.
And it might not be, my favorite shonen, who knows? I just, see people like raving about it. It's like, what is it? I want to know what that unquantifiable factor is.
I need to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, were there any other battle shonen that we didn't like cover?
Think we can briefly mention, I think Fire Force always gets thrown in the mix. I have nothing to say about Fire Force. I watched some of it. That one's tough. Because I think the manga art is good, but I feel like the adaptation kind of changed it, like in a very fundamental aesthetic way, and just the presentation of everything. It feels very Shafty at David Production because it has a lot of Shaft staff on it.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I don't know. I watched the first half of it, and a lot of it just felt so like fundamentally awkward for me that I don't think I'm gonna like really click with it. But I like seeing fire shit, so like I might catch up on it, but. I don't know. It's unique, but it might be like unique in a way that I don't vibe with. And then we also have Chainsaw Man, which will be getting an anime adaptation soon. But it was kind of like the first part started and ended.
Actually, you know what? Let's talk about Chainsaw Man. Although I did a whole stream on it before, so I have talked about Chainsaw Man at length. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts since you just caught up to the manga. But briefly on Fire Force. I dropped it at like episode 7 in season 1, never looked back. That was one of the ones where I feel like I totally was not connecting to the characters and I just didn't give a shit. And that says something if, I was just saying the same thing sort of about Jujutsu Kaisen, but I kept watching it all the way through and not Fire Force. So
different levels. I think Fire Force is just tougher to watch for me too. It was just kind of, you know what I mean with the editing and how it's weirdly framed with everything?
I don't remember. What do you mean by that?
So there would be like just... You know how with Monogatari, they do different interesting shots for the sake of showing a certain emotional state?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking, for example, they'll have like they'll have like a very wide shot and it'll show everyone in the room, but from a distance in really awkward positions. And in my head, reason that they have that type of shot is to illustrate a sense of unease or discomfort.
Mhm.
But in Fire Force, they do that when they're at home in their home base, and they repeatedly emphasize how that makes them feel comfortable. So they're trying to communicate that they're comfortable, and they're showing them being uneasy. And I would get that kind of like dissonance between what I thought they were trying to convey versus what they were actually conveying with their unique directing, editing, storyboarding.
So meanwhile, you're like, what are they trying to say here? Is there a
like,
sense of foreboding doom? Like, oh no, this didn't mean anything.
Yeah,
So-
and that happened for like half the show. So I'm like, I don't like saying this, but it felt like they were making very random decisions that didn't really communicate a cohesive emotional or thematic element. And I'm like, you have all this interesting shit going on, but for what? And, you know, maybe it just goes over my head. Maybe it'll be answered later. But like at the time, I was like, I don't know. And I don't like the characters that much either. So I was like, whatever.
I mean, I confirmed with my sources, you know, that told me it didn't get better and at least what I, you know, didn't like about it. And I was like, okay, you know, so I just felt, I don't know. I wasn't sold by, you know, the dynamics. So I was just like, okay,
There was a lot of awkward dynamics. Like even the one dude, so that one, like, it's like not the main guy, but his friend Arthur had like weird gags that I just didn't get. Like they had these
part
gags.
of it. And I actually did not, you know, this might be like petty or nitpicky, but I did not like how the main character had that like grin on his face.
I didn't like how happy he was.
No, but it was like what it was every
his
time.
thing.
What was it?
It was like that was like his shtick of like his character shtick of like when he was scared, he would smile.
Is that what
it?
it? Yeah, I don't
something
know.
like that. Yeah,
I couldn't get behind it. I was like, this is
too many shticks that I just couldn't get behind, which was sad because I really like Soul Eater, and it's the same creator. I think Soul Eater had a bit of a tricky start, but I ended up loving it.
I heard, I don't know if my information is correct on this one, but I heard that the author of both Fire Force and Soul Eater was going to be done. Like that's it after Fire Force.
Yeah, I think he's like done after it. He's like,
he's
okay,
not
I'm
continuing.
good.
Okay.
I think he can retire at this point. He's probably made a decent amount for both of them, but
yeah. I mean,
he's a really talented author. I mean, talented author artist, but
never finished Soul Eater, but
yeah,
you know, I've always heard good things.
It's an interesting one, and then you get the unique case of the ending is better in the manga, or the anime ending is bad, or like it's different, whatever. But I mean, both seem to be valid. I definitely get Soul Eater. I don't get Fire Force.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But that transitions well because these are like Fire Force, even at its most not getting it, had a unique vibe to it, which brings us to Chainsaw Man, which I do think is a very unique series. And I think one of the worst things is like when people try and sell a series, they're saying it's really unique. And oftentimes it's not unique. And it's not like you need to be unique to be good. And uniqueness isn't inherently a strength. It's just trying to describe a property.
Well, I think sometimes maybe a lot of people might come at it saying something's unique as in like, oh, this has never been done before. You know, this is so different from all the other anime. But meanwhile, either they haven't been paying like close attention to those other anime, or maybe this is like one of the few of the category that they've watched. And there's like, no, this is so unique. Meanwhile, it's not that unique.
It's definitely, it feels like a miscommunication more often than not. And, you know, I've seen it a lot with Hunter x Hunter, where people are like, it's such a unique series. And then you watch it at first and you're like, this really doesn't feel unique. Why are people saying it's unique? And I think some of the later events are unique, and I think it has unique execution, but like, I'm not going to market Hunter x Hunter as unique. I think that's just like I think it's a bad practice to do. But
I feel like, you know what? I think for once, I disagree with you.
Ooh, I mean, I love it. I'm down to hear why it is unique. I've just I failed at making this argument. So if you can make it, I will steal it in the future.
I mean, like, I don't think this is going to be as much of a big brain argument, considering I think Hunter x Hunter is probably more fresh in your head than it is in mine. But Hunter x Hunter, like its first 30 episodes, which is a lot, does not feel unique. It feels like your standard run-of-the-mill coming of age boy wants to go on a journey to be like his dad and whatever. You've seen it before. But it's what it morphs into that and how it keeps like changing it up that makes it unique. Like there's like a difference in genre where it goes from one arc to another. And sometimes I don't even know if it's purposely. It just feels like an exploration.
Yeah.
How it sort of like doesn't commit to its like main character. It'll switch it up to like one of the main characters, like a side character. He's not a side character. He's like one of the mains, but it'll have a whole arc on him. Not even like the other characters. Then it'll go back to the other two. Yeah. Then it just turns into this giant like world, like it goes into like a virtual reality to then a giant world building, game changing arc with like all encompassing with all of these characters, this whole other species and all of that. And it's just like, it feels like an adventure, but I feel like adventure is an understatement. It's like not that type of it. It's like not what you even expected coming in. Like if you look at what the show was in the first 20 episodes and you're like, all right, yeah, I know what to expect from the show. By the time you're done with it and you look back at those first 20 episodes, you're gonna be like, oh no. I was not ready for this.
Yeah, I think that's more accurate. I think it becomes unique and the present execution and path is unique. But as we said, like at the beginning, it doesn't feel unique. But I think you're right. I think you're completely right on the path and trajectory of the series. And that is definitely something that is very unique. But it's tough at first because, I mean, I remember people seeing the first part. They're like, oh, this reminds me of Pokemon. And I'm like, that does not feel, that's not unique.
Yeah. I mean, like, I remember once in college, I think, during like a work study in the summer, I pitched Hunter x Hunter to someone like that like someone that was an acquaintance that was working with me. Like, I think he was like a year younger than me. And he like was fairly new to anime and he just was looking for recommendations. So I pitched Hunter x Hunter to him and I had never watched it before.
Oh, nice.
And I knew nothing about it. I just heard that it was good. It's like, yeah, you should check it out. I've heard great things. You should watch it. Whatever. Like if you need a shonen or something. And then I see him watching it and he's like maybe like 40 episodes in and he's like so addicted.
Oh,
and
nice.
He's like, dude, this is so amazing. And then I started feeling FOMO because it's like I recommended this shit to him and I don't even know what's going on. It looks amazing. And then I started watching it and I fell down a rabbit hole and it's like, I don't know. It's like I get what you're saying. Like you can't pitch it to someone as a unique experience, but you could also do the caveat, which everyone does, like wait till you get to episode 30.
wait till you get to this. Yeah. I think I've just been I've been bad because, sometimes when it's a favorite and it's so close that you're like, am I too biased? So I always try and be like more careful with my favorites.
Objectively, it's different, based
I do think
on,
so.
I mean, I'm not saying like Nen is like unique. Power systems in general aren't unique, but Nen, how deep it goes is pretty unique. And then if you really want to make an argument within the first 30 episodes about something unique, I mean, like Hisoka's unique.
Hisoka's unique. Yeah. He's like unique, and people are like, yeah, I don't know how to handle this one.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I do think that's true. It's tough because I think I've just come to the point now of like, I don't really want to say something is unique because people get kind of caught up on that. And then they're like, well, this other show exists and that's similar to it. I'm like, okay, but that's like cool that another show that's like it, but like it kind of takes away from the point.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, although the preferred adjective for it is it's bizarre.
Bizarre.
But you could also say it's really unique.
Oh, yeah. And I have a lot of respect for JoJo because there's nothing out there like JoJo's. For some people, that's a good thing. For other people, that's a bad thing. But like you're not seeing a lot out there like JoJo. JoJo is
in its own category.
It's just...
I think... And if we're going to define unique, if we want to go like, all right, unique is its own category. That's what this produces. Then Chainsaw Man is unique.
Chainsaw Man is it does strike me as unique. And it was kind of refreshing to experience it as like, okay, I can actually market this as a unique experience. Like this is some wild shit.
Chainsaw is the most batshit experience I have had in a
while
time. Like, I hadn't read it in a while. Like I remember binging like out of curiosity because I wanted to know what the fuck, like why everyone's raving about this. I'm like, you know what? Let me check it out. I ended up binging like 40, 50 chapters in like a night or something. And I was like, oh, this is pretty crazy, whatever. And I forgot about it. And then like recently I went back through it because I was going to do a stream on it. And I went and it was done now. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go finish it. And I did not remember how how bad
crazy.
shit it was.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's crazy from the get-go too.
yeah. And now seeing the conclusion, it was already batshit from the get-go. And then towards the end, it was just, I don't even know what I was reading. And that's not bad. It was just,
Yeah.
it was a different level. Both in like, it's not like I mean, if we want to get into it, like it deals with demons, right? And that's not unique, but it's the way that it goes about it. And the level of like, what's the right word? Like, I feel like in Chainsaw Man, what's absurd is the stakes. The stakes in Chainsaw Man, like the level that people's lives are on the line.
Because people make like contracts and shit.
Yeah. But those contracts like are not like in other anime, like, oh, you have this contract and you have like, I don't know, like you never really like feel that sense of urgency as much in the anime, like a little bit, but in Chainsaw Man, oh, you feel it.
Chainsaw Man, it's like before we were talking about Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen, and they feel like they have that urgency. Chainsaw Man, like more so. Like there is like that sense that if you die, you're not coming back. Like they're not gonna make anyone come back. Like that's kind of it. It's just a very harsh, brutal world that they create, and like the power system is brutal. Everything is kind of brutal about it. So you're just kind of like constantly caught up in like brutal, intense action. As one would imagine with the main dude who has a chainsaw as a head occasionally.
Well, I think that's also what it is. I think it's, you can't just say like, it's brutal and brutality and all that stuff, because then that, you could say, hey, a kame got killed, it's brutal.
Yeah, not like that.
Yeah.
No, go back.
Because I just had that thought, but, because it feels like, I think that's part of it. I think where the absurdity and the uniqueness starts is with the main character, having fucking chainsaw for arms and literally,
it's like I think of it as like Fooly Cooly meets Berserk.
I think that's a good way of putting it.
Not as harsh as Berserk, not as ridiculous as Fooly Cooly, but like combine the two, and that's kind of what you get.
I think it's harsher than Berserk.
I don't know if it's harsher than
like
Berserk.
In terms of the contracts and the immediacy of the repercussions for those contracts.
Well,
like power comes at a cost, like.
But like with Berserk, a lot of the brutality in Berserk is just like the gratuitous, violent nature and like the unforgiving aspect of like the evil.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Berserk is just so much more like I think Berserk is just so much more like dark, but like dark and brutal. This one is more like unforgiving and extreme. This one's just extreme because it's also the setting, it's like a modern day setting. So it's like as harsh and brutal as it can get in a modern day setting without feeling completely otherworldly.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I feel like, I think you're making a good distinction here where I think it never feels like everything that these characters do in Chainsaw Man is of their own choice, their own volition. They're making these contracts. So it never like fully feels like you're enveloped in hopelessness.
Yeah.
Whereas in Berserk, it does feel like this is it. Like there's just.
This is how it's like for the daily person, whereas this is how it is for these specific people in society.
Yeah, because a lot of times, a lot of these characters that we're talking about are sort of like side characters too.
Yeah.
So whereas in Berserk, like it's just guts and it's really you're following him and it's his world and his world crumbles, and then that's pretty much all you see from his perspective.
Yeah.
But back to Chainsaw Man, it's both both the whole the main character, also the main character in himself is unique because it's hard to get attached to him, but it's also hard to not like want to keep watching or reading to see what he's gonna do next.
Yeah, I think this is another one where I think I connect with like two characters a lot. Mm-hmm. I'd say I like two characters, and then I don't really connect with everyone, but I'm still on board to see what happens, as you said.
Yeah. Because that's the appeal of sort of Chainsaw Man, even if you don't connect with the main character. Although, you do find there's goodness to him, but he's kind of like, it's like if the wild card was the main character, and that's
Yeah.
what it is. You know, you're playing like a Russian roulette, like you know, you're throwing dice with him because you don't know what you're gonna essentially where it's gonna lead to.
What's
and
his
it's just,
motivation going to be for the day?
yeah, and it's a whole like domino effect of just one thing after another. But that's also fits into the main theme of the manga, which is, without spoiling too much, is the main character is way too reactive, and he kind of lets life take him as wherever it goes. And then towards the end, it's sort of like the repercussions of that, of not making your own choices.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a cool experience. I feel like even if, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for people who are underwhelmed by it. I do have I think I really like it, but I don't love it. That's kind of where I'm at. But I really respect it. I really respect it for existing in Weekly Shounen Jump. The stuff it did in Weekly Shounen Jump that like we've probably not seen before. I want to see more unique series like this. I want to see more experimental things like this. I hope it opens up the gateways for more experimenting in such a mainstream manga publication. So like, if anything, I think people can respect it for that. Maybe, you know, I don't want to speak for people who aren't fans of it, but like, that's how I feel. Like, my biggest takeaway isn't like, hey, it's not, you know, a top 10 series for me. It's, look how cool that this thing is for existing and being successful.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like towards the last 20 chapters, I had to kind of leave my logic at the door.
Yeah.
Because I just was not like, just the sheer
scale and
scale of everything that was going on, and trying to follow it, and like, how is that happening, and oh my god, what is this? And then just, it was a lot of that. I think it reached like Gurren Lagann levels of you know.
Yeah, that's where the fully coolly part comes in.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense actually. Yeah.
But it's just some wild shit. It's cool though, it's fun.
Who just out of curiosity, who are the characters you connected with?
Makima and Aki. Those were the two where I'm like, okay, I want to see what you guys are up to.
All right, I have to question you connecting with Makima.
Okay, I don't connect with her on an emotional human
it's very telling,
level.
Shaw.
Me too. Yeah, it's like going up to people like bark for me and stuff. No, I think she's a really interesting character. So I appreciate her chaos.
She's definitely the most interesting because she's like the biggest enigma, you know.
Yeah.
And she's so like self-composed, and you just want to like see what she's actually thinking, because I don't think that's ever really fully revealed to you.
Yeah.
And then Aki, of course, he's very he's very admirable, and also
he's got an emotional resonance, good motive, good you know, he is kind of the senpai character, so
yeah, so
he guides them. Did you like the whole cast, or did you have a few that you were like, these are my people?
I mean, I try not to get attached to anyone, but
because we know what happens.
I mean, I liked Aki. I was definitely interested in Makima, and kind of like what her shtick was.
Yeah.
I grew fonder of Denji as it went on. I grew more of an appreciation.
Yeah. Yeah, like I appreciate him, but I don't think I'm like I'm not like a super fan of him. I'm just like, yeah, he's cool, you know.
Yeah, like he's there, but I did again, there was like parts of him, like, you know, where you feel that he's good at heart and all that stuff. So I definitely did appreciate him. I wouldn't say he was like my favorite. And I'm trying to think of like, in terms of the other characters, you know, that was kind of it. Like, because by the end, it's sort of, yeah, I won't say too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm just trying to think of who else, but that's
I guess
kind of
Power is the one people like. I was never fond of Power.
Oh,
the girl with the horns.
I forgot about Power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Power's cool.
I wasn't super fond of her, but I was like, okay, whatever. Like,
is it because she doesn't bathe?
That was part of it. I was like, stinky. Like, what are you doing? I don't know. It was like, I felt like they like started off trying to give her a lot, and then they kind of like pushed her to the background for like most of the series. So I was like, okay, you're just kind of there.
I mean, like that's how she kind of felt with like her and Denji's dynamic was just, if he wasn't the main character, they were both kind of just there
Yeah.
being dragged along to the next thing.
That was kind of most of it. Yeah.
So, I kind of enjoyed that dynamic. It was sweet, but it was like,
They did have my 2 last brain cell energy, so that was fun. But yeah.
yeah. So, I think I enjoyed them. I don't know. It's like if there's ever a cast, it's crazy to like pitch this series, but then also to say like if there's ever a cast that's just there, it's definitely changed something.
Yeah, they're just reacting to shit in real time.
Yeah, and that's why it's like so crazy. Especially that it works. So and it fits into the whole themes.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how successful that becomes in when the anime comes out. I forget when it comes out. Is it next year?
But I am excited to see how the adaptation handles it. Hopefully it captures all the crazy visual imagery, enhances it. And
I do believe that MAPPA can be the studio to make it happen.
Yeah. 3D chainsaws.
Oh my god, can you imagine? That would be wild. My god.
So that and I'm excited to see that one when it's animated.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Were there any other shonen that we haven't
We were going to talk about I guess we could briefly run through the non-battle battle shonen. So we got like I don't even like thinking about The Promised Neverland, how it started so amazing, how it ended with the anime not amazing.
We just don't talk about it.
It's just a tragic turn of events. And then we mentioned Shokugeki, another tragic turn of events, possibly a more tragic turn of events in how it turned out. And then we have Dr.
Really? You think it's... Oh, yeah.
Well, I think Shokugeki went downhill like a lot worse than Promised
because
Neverland.
it went downhill in the source material. Unlike, Promised Neverland, it had an okay ending.
Yeah, I think it like went down a bit, but not like series ruining in the manga. Whereas like Shokugeki, like everyone was just like, there's no coming back from this.
Yeah.
So, and they were series that were very promising. I think they were really good. They had really good parts to them that had a lot to offer, especially because Shokugeki's like non-battles series but have that same hype element to it with cooking. It's also like a decent ecchi series, which is tough to come by. So that was kind of cool. Promised Neverland was kind of like the new age Death Note. Kind of lost a lot of that momentum, which was sad, but it's still like at its best out of all these groups, all of these series at its best. Promised Neverland at its best was by far my favorite out of everything we mentioned. So have a soft spot in my heart. Rest in peace.
I never thought of it as the new age Death Note, huh?
Well, at least at the first arc, I know Oda made that comparison too, so I feel validated in saying that.
I was so excited from the promise of the first season, that whole first part, and I was very excited for season 2, but now I won't get to experience it unless I read the manga.
It's never gonna land, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The manga is good though. I would recommend it. And then we have Dr. Stone, which is like, it's so weird because I love the premise of Dr. Stone, and I think the art is really good, but it's always been kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the new age like battle shonen series, and it's like I don't know why. I don't know why it's not more popular.
Does it count as battle shonen? I don't think it is.
No, it's it's out of the new age series.
The new age series, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it, it's
I like it. But it's maybe everyone just has a collective shrug towards it, which is why it's not more popular.
You don't think it's as popular? I haven't really been keeping up.
No, like the sales are not as popular. Like that's what I'm basing it by, is like the sales. And I think it should be more.
Maybe because it's slightly educational and people,
maybe they don't want to learn about anything. So maybe that's like the Reading Rainbow or something. And then the other series I was following was Act Age, Rest in Peace. That's even worse to talk about. That's the most heartbreaking to talk about. So I won't even mention that, except, I appreciated it for what it was, a tragic way it turned out. And then people bring up Haikyuu, which is still doesn't really feel like it belongs in this group.
But it is a shonen. It's just it's a sports manga. So,
and I'm not even sure if it's new age when it came out so long ago.
Yeah.
So it's like that and like Attack on Titan kind of get brought up, but they're both old series, so they're old now at least. So, but we love them, so they kind of get brought up. That's all I could think of.
I mean,
that's all I could think of.
I think that about covers it. I feel like we came into this, questioning what is new gen shonen, what are they now, and we came out of this still not knowing what the hell it is.
Yeah, we came out of it saying, looking forward to Chainsaw Man.
Yeah. Is there any actually new shonen series that have started recently that are good? Is there anything? I've been
You
hearing
know what
about.
might be it? You know what might be it?
What?
Spy Family.
Oh, is that a shonen?
It is. It's in I think it's Weekly Shounen Jump, or one of the like spin-offs that's still shonen, but it comes out every 2 weeks.
Okay, so it's
Spy
like
X Family. I don't know if I say the X.
I don't think so. I don't know. I've been wanting to read that for the longest time.
You know what? It's very funny. I am very behind on it. I'd say I'm like halfway through it, but it's
Because
very funny, charming series.
Isn't it because it's like sort of just self-contained like stories? Like it doesn't actually have an overarching.
No, it has a cohesive line. It has a cohesive theme.
Oh, okay.
It's very funny, very charming. I really love it. Do you know the premise of it?
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. But yeah, it's a really fun series. I would recommend anyone check it out. I think it is really charming. I want them to make an anime of it. I think it would be so much fun, but I have to catch up to it. It's been a bit because it was focusing a bit too much on the school aspect for me and not enough on the actual family, but that might have changed by now. So I got to get back into it.
Yeah, I caught a few panels of it that I had read. I had read a few panels, and I just thought based on that it was very like cute and charming and hilarious. So I was like, I always wanted to actually formally read it, but
yeah,
it's on the list.
Yeah, and I always love spy stuff. I love spy espionage stuff, so it was like right up my alley. So.
Are you like a James Bond fan?
Yeah, I was a bit. I think remember when I talk about it with you or someone else? Where I was talking about like Totally Spies.
Probably someone else.
Yeah, I was remembering this was like not with you, but I love like Totally Spies. That was like my favorite thing as a kid.
I don't know if I've heard of it.
So it's not an anime. It's it was a Western cartoon back in like early 2000s.
No, I don't even think I watched it, so I don't even know.
It's a Canadian French series.
Oh, okay. Totally
yeah, it was on like
my
Cartoon.
radar.
Yeah, I would imagine not, but I think it was on Cartoon Network in like 2002.
Maybe that was the point where I had just given up on Western cartoons. Maybe that's why.
Maybe that was the turning point. You saw Totally Spies and you're like, this is it. This is over.
I think it was like there was a certain point where like I grew up watching Western cartoons, but then once I got into anime, that's it. Like I just abandoned.
No turning back.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. So if it missed that cutoff, I didn't get into it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the only Western cartoons I watched like later on was Gravity Falls and Steven Universe, and that was it.
Did you see Avatar at all?
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, that too.
As long as you got that one covered, you're good.
I've seen both series.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. All right. So, I think that's about it. That's all we have for this episode.
Yeah, we talked about a lot.
We covered all the shonen. I think all of them.
I think we covered every single one.
Every single one, all the new ones. I think, and if we missed one, you can scold us in the comments.
After all.
Oh, are you trying to set up?
After all.
I had a whole thing I was gonna say, but
never mind. Okay.
Well, okay. Yeah. So I was just gonna say the usual. So, anyways, you're gonna be seeing this on probably Saturday when we usually post up the episode. We kind of had to just pre-record this. If you enjoyed it, please let us know in the comments. Help the show grow or the channel grow by subscribing, and so we can keep it growing. And if you're already subscribed, just give it a like, or just let us know what you thought of the episode. If you want us to keep talking more about shonen, if you want us to dive deep into some of the ones that we mentioned, I think we had an idea here to, I don't know, rate every arc. But I think that wasn't for shonen. I think that was just for anime
tournament arc.
Yeah. Any ideas that we brought up that you're into, let us know. You can also check out the audio version of this. This will be up probably same time as this one, just for this week. And besides that, this is just what we think about shonen. If you disagree, if you have your own thoughts, we don't care because we're just weebs.
No, I missed it. I missed it. No. After all, no, it's not happening.
I mean, I could do it again.
No, then I'd be like 3 strikes and I'm out. No.
Besides that, this is just what we think about shonen. If you have your own thoughts, definitely keep those because we don't care. After all, we're just weebs.
No.